The Legend of the Ninja from the Hidden Mist Village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Indra and Azura. That's right. Zyandmali rarely praised him. It seems that you are not completely stupid yet. The speed of your brain changing ideas is quite good. TSK, do I need you to tell me? Mingshan was about to despise and complain about Zyandmali in his heart, but unexpectedly, he raised his eyes and saw her eyes full of inexplicable encouragement. He trembled for the moment, and his instinct reacted quickly. He immediately said silently, I just like listening to Sister Zyandmali tell mythological stories. TSK. Zyandmali was very disappointed. She didn't spend as much time thinking as he did, but directly showed her dissatisfaction on her face. You're quite good at pretending. Huh. Please continue. Mingshan used his excellent habit of being thick-skinned and listened attentively. Indra discovered that, if you want to condense chakra and drive its power, it has a lot to do with the hand shape. It has a lot to do with the hand shape. Could it be him? Well, it's just as you thought. He pointed out that, by forming different hand shapes, you can directly use chakra powers of various attributes. So by analogy, the combination of hand shapes is a seal, and the final result of the activation is a technique. Mingshan was so shocked that he finished the rest of the words for her before she finished speaking. The hand seal techniques we learned were all created by Indra. Well, Mingshan, actually, there's nothing surprising about this. Indra initially just successfully put the theory into practice. Were there already books on this kind of related knowledge published at that time? Not really. People at that time just had this idea and wrote the theory into books, but no one had a specific feasible plan to study. Zyandmali casually trampled on the grass in her palm. You have to know that Otsutsuki Hagoromo only inherited the power of his mother Kaguya. He can easily activate and use various techniques without making hand seals. People who were given the original chakra by the Six Paths Sage can't do this and can't perform it. In addition, Indra cracked this at the young age of 10 at that time and used hand seals to advance the history of ninjas. As she spoke, she spread out her palm and a straw insect that was not very good looking was born. It is no exaggeration to say that he was recognized as the #1 genius in the ninja sect at that time. Because of the move of making hand seals and using techniques, people's original practice and living habits were fundamentally changed. Zyandmali's palm vibrated slightly, and the straw insect jumped slightly. It has evolved into a situation where, as long as everyone can seriously master the practice of making hand seals, everyone can learn to use techniques. I'm an immortal, and my eldest son is so powerful, so his youngest. The youngest son is just like you. What do you mean? The meaning is so obvious. He's just a loser with no future. Hey, you. Mingshan was very annoyed when he heard that. You can insult my personality, but your personality is worthless. Thank you. Zyandmali ignored his anger and blew lightly, letting the straw insect in her hand dance with the wind and float away. To be honest, being able to compare you with Azura is already a high price. Don't be ungrateful. Damn, you have the nerve to mock someone for being a loser. Compared with his brother, Azura doesn't have any special shining points, but she changed the subject. In the end, it was Azura who inherited the mantle of the Six Paths Sage. Mingshan felt extremely incredible when he heard her say that. Why would he, as the youngest son, inherit the family property? No, inherit the ninja sect? Although the elder brother has a better talent for practicing ninjutsu than the younger brother, and Indra is many levels higher than Azura in terms of strength, many disciples believe that he was the most suitable successor to the ninja sect at that time. Zyandmali paused, however, in the following period of time, due to the bewitching of others. As he grew older, Indra's power continued to increase. He began to become more and more arrogant, stubborn, and as a result, he looked down on and could no longer believe in the power of other companions. Bewitched? Mingshan asked. Who bewitched him? That guy. I don't know him either. He is very mysterious. Although I occasionally sensed his whereabouts in the past, I often missed him when I rushed over, so there was almost no chance to run into him or detect him. Xianmui was quite annoyed when she mentioned this person. He seems to have appeared later than me, but he is still active in this ninja world. What? Mingshan felt that he had heard it wrong. He's still alive. Actually, strictly speaking, he is not a person, just a black shadow. Xianmui corrected him. Black shadow? Mingshan was surprised and confused. What is that? At that time, I had just come into the world and didn't understand much. The only thing I remember is that this black shadow should have run out from Kaguya's sleeve. Xianmui frowned seriously and recalled, my impression of him only stayed at the first moment. She raised her eyes to look at the straw insects in the distance. In the years that followed, except for that time, he was wearing a straw mask on his head, covering half of his body, standing on the treetop, and was bewitching and misleading Indra. I happened to run into him once, and basically, I haven't seen him again. This guy you are talking about, Mingshan guessed to her. Could he be the extra will of Kaguya left behind? This, I really don't know. Xianmui shook her head. If I had chosen to follow him closely at that time, I could have figured out the situation quickly, but it's okay, Xianmui. Mingshan interrupted her with a smile and said gratefully, it's enough for me to have these important information you provided. If there is a chance in the future, I can slowly get to the bottom of the matter. Yeah. You go on, and the two brothers will talk about what happened next. Okay. Xianmui responded with a smile, and then coughed dryly and continued. Although my younger brother Ashura is far inferior to his brother Indra in strength, he understands the joys and sorrows of others, has a deep understanding of people's hearts, and knows how to use great love to implement and promote the ninja sect. At this point, she said solemnly, UIE believes that Ashura has brought trust, bonds, and companions to everyone, and as long as there are bonds, the ninja sect will not be used by ambitious people to lead them into evil ways. If there are no bonds, the power of the ninja sect will eventually bring unimaginable disasters to the world. But having said that, he hesitated to speak. What do you want to say, tomorrow? Xianmui asked him. Chapter 277 Feathered Clothes Test. I can guess what will happen to Ashura after he inherits the ninja sect. In fact, he is not much better than Indra. Instead, he accelerates the destruction of the sect. Mingshan said something shocking to her. Why do you? This is the truth, Xianmui. Facing his words, Xianmui was silent and did not answer, which was a disguised admission. Alas. Mingshan did not feel any joy after hearing the answer he wanted. Instead, he sighed. People are always people after all. What do you mean by this? It was Xianmui's turn to be confused. Anything, after a long period of separation, will eventually come together, and after a long period of coming together, it will eventually separate. A strong person like Otsutsuki Hagoromo, in the end, didn't he become a handful of yellow earth? Xianmui heard this, and still did not refute Mingshan, because it was true. However, I'm still very curious about how YUI tested and selected the two brothers. You already know the ending. Why are you asking this? I know it, but I still want to know more. Can you tell me about it? I admire you. Xianmui was helpless with him. Listen carefully. Yes. In fact, YUI is not very satisfied with his two sons. He mentioned this in a casual conversation with Kimimaro. Wait, Kimimaro? She had just said a few words when Mingshan interrupted her subconsciously and asked, who is that? Why does it sound like? It's a big toad. I forgot to introduce it to you before. Xianmui was rarely embarrassed. The Six Paths Sage has a very good friend who has always been in contact with him. His name is Kimimaro. According to my observation at that time, the two seemed to have known each other for a long time. When YUI founded the ninja clan, it often came to visit each other. Kimimaro? Mingshan was surprised by the name, and associated it with a certain toad. Could it be? Well, just as you guessed, it's the toad from Mount Mayaboku. Xianmui revealed its identity. Its body is orange, it has yellow eyes, and a string of Buddhist beads around its neck, with a lavender cat's eye in the middle with the word oil written on it. Another hint for tomorrow. Moreover, Kimimaro has survived from the Hagoromo era to the present, and has lived through a very long time. He is revered as the great toad sage by many toads and ninjas who came to Mount Mayaboku to practice in later generations. He has extremely accurate predictive ability. Oh. Hey, why didn't I feel that you were too surprised this time? Xianmui was curious about his reaction. I'm used to it. A black shadow can survive until now. Mingshan picked his ear and said to her, now, even if you tell me about other monsters who can survive until now, I won't feel particularly strange. Okay, go on and talk about what happened later. Oh, just now, during a casual chat, the Sage of Six Paths told Kimimaro his true views on the relationship between the two brothers. After skimming over the matter of Kimimaro, Xianmui continued, although Indra is excellent and has great power and talent, he always wants to solve problems alone when encountering problems, and although Ashura is kind and can get along with everyone, he is always unwilling to be at the forefront. So, when Ui was old and finally planned to choose the official successor to the ninja clan, he personally set a test for the two of them. What is the test? When Yui sealed their mother Kaguya, the remains of the Ten-Tails were broken into pieces by their own hands and scattered all over the world. Xianmui explained to Mingshan the test question set by Yui in detail. When Yui was traveling with his disciples, although most of the remains of the Ten-Tails were dealt with along the way, there were still 2 sacred trees left behind that were not dealt with in time. The remains of the sacred tree. That's what I encountered in that cave at that time. Mingshan rarely spoke this time, but chose to listen patiently to Xianmui's subsequent narration. Hagoromo has instructed Indra and Ashura to go to the remains of the sacred tree in person and solve the series of problems that are happening there. Xianmui gathered her long grey hair with 2 fingers. It depends on the result to decide who to entrust the ninja clan to. Interesting. Xianmui, can you tell me what's so strange about the remains of the sacred tree in these 2 places? In fact, the problems faced by the 2 places are not much different. When people drink too much water produced by the remains of the sacred tree, they will fall ill. Then, their bodies will be inexplicably eroded, and white tree whiskers will grow. White tree whiskers? That's right, just like when you accidentally drank the remaining liquid of the sacred tree, but they are not as lucky as you to accidentally obtain the power of the Ten-Tails. Hey, there's nothing lucky or unlucky about it. Huh, just pretend. Ahem, don't worry about it, and tell me about the situation of the 2 people behind. How is it? In fact, it is not difficult for the 2 brothers to solve this problem, but there is a very troublesome problem. Xianmui pointed out to Mingshan, if the remains of the sacred tree are destroyed in these 2 places, the villages where they are located will immediately face the dilemma of no water, and the land will become barren again. Is that so? So at that time, both villages had no ready-made water sources in the local area, and they could not survive once they left the remains of the Ten-Tails. As a result, Indra solved the problem and came back after a few days, while Ashura stayed there for a full year before returning to the ninja clan. One took only a few days, but the other took a full year. At first, I also thought that Indra didn't care about the lives of the villagers and directly destroyed the remains of the sacred tree and came back. At this point, Xianmui shook his head, but the result is that he actually took into account the people's future livelihood problems and spent a lot of energy alone to dig a good well for them. And because he was too good, compared to Ashura and everyone working together to dig a well, it took a year. Indra only took a few days to build the well by himself and returned. Indra is really a showman. What a pity. Mingshan sighed when he said this. What a pity. It was Xianmui's turn to ask him subconsciously. You also know the ending later. Xianmui was speechless. Seeing this, Mingshan continued. In fact, in the selection of the successor to the ninja sect, I think Liudeo is too biased towards Ashura. Anyone who understands will see it clearly. Maybe, you are right, but the Sage of Six Paths will consider this aspect. In fact, Xianmui, no one can guarantee that his own ideals can last forever. Even if Ui lets his youngest son inherit the business, I believe that Ashura can do it. He paused and said to her, promise that while he is alive, the ninja sect will always be stable and maintain world peace, but times will always pass. In the end, we can only let our descendants worry about it. Chapter 278 Goodbye. Mingshan looked into the distance. When he talked about this, he seemed like a different person. His words were full of complexity. It is impossible to have true world peace and harmony in reality. As long as there are people, even if chakra is not widely used, wars between humans will still not be prevented and avoided, and we will have no choice but to watch them unfold. Don't you want peace? Xianmui sighed and asked herself, from what you said, I only heard pessimism that has been infinitely magnified. Just talking about the facts. I also hope so, but the development law of this world is not based on who has the final say and can represent everything. What if Mingshan tried to put forward an opinion? The strongest ninja can use illusion to control the will of all people in our world and make war disappear completely. He asked her tactfully, Xianmui, do you think this can be regarded as true peace? Well, don't count it. They have no consciousness of their own and are completely controlled by humans. How can it be true peace and harmony? Xianmui hesitated and shook her head in denial. Well, I just proposed such an idea. Mingshan scratched his head and comforted Xianmui. There shouldn't be a fool with such a serious Chunibyo syndrome who would really do such a ridiculous thing. Oh, it's hard to say. Xianmui suddenly smiled at him and said, so, what do you mean? Mingshan looked at her. In Konoha village, there is a place called Nanga Shrine. Over there. Xianmui was only halfway through her words when she put two fingers together and suddenly pointed them at his eyes and shot a red light straight at him. This is. Mingshan saw a flash of red light in his field of vision. Although he didn't feel any tingling or discomfort, it was still quite weird and terrifying. Don't worry. Xianmui looked at him with contempt. I won't kill you. Then why do you shine this light at me? If you go to Nanga Shrine in the future, you can use this light to understand the inscription on a stone in the main hall of the shrine. Inscription? Yes, it's the thing that the Six Paths sage compiled and left behind. It is now stored in this gathering place of the Uchiha clan. Oh, I see. When I return to the village, I will find some time to sneak in and take a look alone. By the way, you must remember to open the 7th tatami from the right from the innermost, and then enter the empty room below. Okay. Mingshan responded and suddenly said to her, well, I suddenly feel that it's time for me to leave here. Leave here? Xianmui was stunned, and then she also sensed something, and said to him suddenly, well, it's time to leave. If you continue to stay here, you will be trapped in the space and unable to wake up. After saying this, they both understood each other very well, and did not speak again. There was just a breeze blowing from the right, passing by, causing her hair to flutter. How will I wake up, Xianmui? Mingshan took the initiative to break the silence, and asked her casually. Well, it's very simple. You can close your eyes at any time now, and count to 3 seconds silently, and you can wake up, and return to reality. Xianmui taught him without thinking. Oh, so that's it. Mingshan walked back to the edge of the big rock, leaned against the wall, looked at her and said, then I'm leaving, Xianmui. After saying this, he was about to close his eyes. Wait a minute, Mingshan. Xianmui suddenly called him. Take this with you. She didn't know when, from her hand, a delicate dark purple scroll that was slightly smaller than the usual one appeared, and she threw it directly to Mingshan. Take it. Click. Mingshan lightly took the scroll thrown to him by Xianmui. He weighed it in his hand and said to her teasingly, this scroll is not much bigger than an iPhone 11. iPhone 11? Xianmui didn't understand what he said. What is that? Oh, it's a new model of mobile phone that will be released this year. It's a pity that I don't have the chance to see it in this world. Mingshan sighed. He had originally planned to find a stable job after celebrating his graduation from college on the beach that night, but unfortunately, although I don't quite understand what the iPhone 11 you are talking about is, Xianmui didn't care too much, but this thing I gave you records a lot of other experiences about would release ninjutsu, as well as the information about the tailed beasts that I just told you about. As she said that, she did not forget to remind him, don't look at this scroll as if it doesn't look big. It can be replenished by continuously infusing your own chakra, and all the complicated content that I recorded can be stretched out to read. Oh. Mingshan simply responded. However, you'd better prepare paper and pen when you want to read. Xianmui solemnly instructed him, when you pull the scroll to the bottom, I set a self-destruction spell that will burn up after reading it. Destroy it. This is. Because my scroll is something created in this space after all, so it's best. I understand. Mingshan smiled and nodded, understanding why she wanted to do this. After that, the two looked at each other. After a long time, Mingshan couldn't help but ask her, "Why did you give me this scroll?" "Because you didn't ask me for anything, and you didn't have any ideas in your heart." Xianmei confessed to him very frankly, "I even read your mind several times seriously, but I couldn't read your true thoughts." Hey, don't you think you just said something terrible unintentionally?" Mingshan smiled bitterly and reminded her. "Haha, is that so?" She smiled like a flower in an instant when Mingshan said this. "Maybe. Goodbye, Xianmei." Mingshan just closed his eyes, but heard, "Goodbye, seaweed head." "Hey, you." When he heard Xianmei's parting words, which were obviously a teasing with bad taste, he was about to open his eyes again and open his mouth to refute her. "Tomorrow? HMM." There was a thick and familiar voice lingering in his ears. Listening to the repeated shouting calling him, he slowly opened his eyelids. "Hey," he woke up. "Shikamaru. I know, I saw it. Keep your voice down, Choji." As the two of them talked, Tomorrow's sight gradually focused back to reality. He saw Shikamaru and Choji standing by his bed and chatting. "Shikamaru, Choji," he tried to ask. "You woke up, tomorrow?" Choji turned to look at him and said with a happy grin, "What a hassle, Choji. I'll stay here. Go tell Ino and the others to come over and tell them to wake up tomorrow." "Okay." Shikamaru watched Choji run out of the room and go outside to find other friends. Others? Chapter 279 Typical money lovers. "You just woke up. You don't know yet. Naruto and Jiraiya are also here in Tansho Street." "Huh? Yellow hair? Naruto and Jiraiya are here?" Mingshan heard what Shikamaru said, scratching his head in confusion. What does this mean? This is what happened. Shikamaru saw this and told Mingshan what happened after he fell into a coma. After a cup of tea, Mingshan was stunned. "I didn't expect." Mingshan couldn't help but sigh after listening to Shikamaru's rough account. "During the 2 days and 2 nights I was in a coma, such a thing would actually happen." "Yeah, to be honest, at that time, even we didn't expect it." Shikamaru helped him get up, or Orochimaru would actually have such a deal with Lady Tsunade. "Actually, it's normal to think about it. If someone tempted me in front of me and said that they could use forbidden techniques to revive a relative who had died many years ago." Mingshan took 2 steps forward, picked up the cup and pot on the table, and poured himself some water. "I would also be very shaken and eager to see them again." After drinking, he put down the cup. "Yeah, it's true." Shikamaru sighed and agreed with Mingshan's point of view. Not many people could easily refuse the temptation of Orochimaru. Just when he was about to change his mind and talk about something else, he caught a glimpse of it unexpectedly. "Hey, what's wrong?" Mingshan saw Shikamaru staring at him and felt a little puzzled. He couldn't help but ask again, "Is there something wrong with me?" "No, you misunderstood. It's just." He shook his head and pointed at his hand. "Mingshan, when did you get that scroll in your hand?" Mingshan was very surprised when he heard this. He quickly lowered his eyes to look at his hand and unexpectedly found that he really had a very delicate purple scroll in his hand. "Oh, you mean this?" I just took it out of the waste bag next to the bed." Mingshan didn't even blink and just opened his mouth to fool around with Shikamaru. "Oh, is that so?" Hearing this, although Shikamaru was very hesitant, he went out for a while when he was telling Mingshan what happened before, and he was not sure about the situation, so he didn't think about it anymore. Come to think of it, Naruto has been practicing making balls very hard these days, just for a broken necklace? Mingshan put away the scroll naturally and put it in his arms while talking and complained to Shikamaru. A broken necklace? Shikamaru was surprised to hear this. "I heard from them that Tsunade's necklace is worth a lot of money." TSK, a broken necklace can be worth a few dollars? Mingshan was quite disdainful of the necklace that Tsunade bet on. Impossible. "Well, I heard from Naruto, and according to them, the necklace seems to be made of a unique mineral in the world. If it is sold publicly, it can buy 3 mountains." Shikamaru tried to recall. "Probably. Oh, only 3 mountains." Ming-Shan nodded casually in response to Shikamaru at first, and then, when he picked up the cup with water again, and was about to take a few sips, bang, bang, naturally, the cup that Ming-Shan was holding tightly slipped out of his hand, and fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. His eyes also responded, and immediately widened into copper bells. He looked as if he was going to eat someone, which scared Shikamaru a lot. Hey, what's wrong with you? He questioned Ming-Shan fearfully. Ahem. Ming-Shan realized that he had lost his composure after being questioned by him, and quickly adjusted himself. He smiled awkwardly at Shikamaru. Sorry, my hand slipped just now, Shikamaru. Oh, so. After Shikamaru responded to him, sweat dripped down his forehead, his eyebrows jumped, and he silently complained about him in his heart. Your hand didn't slip, you just had the urge to eat me alive. Hearing that the necklace is so valuable, it's not a big deal. But, speaking of this, they just joined forces to force Orochimaru to retreat yesterday, and they should not have set off to return to the village yet. Ming-Shan changed the subject and continued to talk to Shikamaru. Yesterday, Ino and the others assisted Shizune and were busy taking care of everyone. They didn't get a good rest. After everyone discussed it, they felt that half a day was not a big deal. So they decided to stay in the Tansho Street Inn for another night to rest. Shikamaru explained the situation of his companions to Ming-Shan in detail, and then mentioned, also, the situation was critical at the time. Lady Tsunade, in desperation, took off the necklace from her neck and hung the equipment on Naruto's neck. What? Ming-Shan's eyes widened. Tsunade didn't wait to come back to give it to him, but hung the necklace on his neck directly on the spot. Yeah, because at that time Naruto used the newly made Rasengan to attack the opponent, and was attacked by Kabuto Yakushi with a chakra scalpel, who took the opportunity to cut off his heart meridians. The situation. No, what I'm more concerned about is that the necklace is now in Naruto's hands. That's great. After hearing this, Shikamaru didn't know how to talk to Ming-Shan, and could only stare at him speechlessly. Because it turns out that the focus of this guy has always been the necklace. Question mark? You know, I still owe people a lot of money now. Ming-Shan counted on his fingers without realizing it, and complained to Shikamaru. Not only did I promise to pay for the snacks for that guy Choji, but I also had to pay for the building materials of the guest house that I demolished, plus other miscellaneous things. Oh, it's so hard to be a ninja. Hey, these things of yours don't seem to have anything to do with Naruto's bet, right? Shikamaru twitched his lips and couldn't help but complain about him. Who said it doesn't matter? If he gets that thing, I can pawn the necklace and use the money to pay off the debt directly. Ming-Shan explained to him without thinking. Huh. Shikamaru was dumbfounded after hearing this. Why should I? Don't look at me like this. After all, I'm going to be the 5th Hokage of Konoha. I won't go all out to deal with a mere little kid. A female voice that was not particularly rough came from outside, startling the two people in the house. Hey, is this voice? Ming-Shan and Shikamaru walked to the windowsill together, opened the glass door, and he couldn't help but said in surprise, Tsunade? Hey, what are they doing? Shikamaru saw that not only Tsunade was standing on the street below, but Ino, Choji, Jiraiya and Shizune were also standing there, watching the fight between the yellow-haired and her. Why are Naruto and Tsunade standing on the street? It seems like they are ready to fight. Ming-Shan said to Shikamaru in a daze. What's going on? Thank you, brother Chinese soldier, for your recommendation vote today. In addition, special thanks to brother Mechanical vs God of War for your monthly vote today. Thank you to all the brothers who have silently supported this book. Chapter 280 Meeting Tsunade again. I don't understand, but from the way they are acting, it's probably because Naruto has angered Lady Tsunade again. Although Shikamaru didn't know the specific situation below, he guessed the reason to Ming-Shan, based on Naruto's usual carefree personality. Probably. Yeah, I think so. You and I are thinking the same thing. Ming-Shan actually nodded in agreement with Shikamaru. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh and shake their heads at the yellow-haired guy. That guy is really typical. Wherever he goes, he will cause trouble. I can use this one finger to deal with you. Tsunade, who was standing below, continued to speak and raised a finger to the yellow-haired guy, provoking him with casual contempt. Really, this Tsunade? Mingshan saw her say this and shook his head helplessly. Are you so serious with the little kid? Little kid? Shikamaru heard this and subconsciously looked over to him. His face was very strange. Mingshan regretted what he said right after he finished speaking. He knew that he was being mean again, so he quickly raised his hand and pointed, guiding Shikamaru. Look down. Naruto seems to be irritated. Oh. Shikamaru subconsciously turned his gaze back to the street. HMPH, stop calling me a brat and treating me like a fool, and you can look down on me like this. The yellow-haired man was really provoked by her and said to Tsunade, don't look at me like this now. One day, I will become Hokage through my own efforts. Hey, can't this guy change his lines? He always says these few words to others. Mingshan raised his eyebrows with a look of disgust and couldn't help criticizing Naruto. Well, anyway, I'm used to Naruto talking like this. Shikamaru scratched his head. This kid. Unlike Shikamaru and the others, Tsunade thought it was true. She overlapped his figure with the two figures she treasured in her heart and even smiled slightly. This made Mingshan, who was watching from the windowsill, dazed and muttered, Tsunade, what is she? What's wrong, Mingshan? Shikamaru saw him mumbling and asked. Oh, nothing. Mingshan stopped. Let's continue watching, Shikamaru. Oh. It seems that Naruto not only cured Tsunade's hemophobia, but also solved some of her knots. Although he was not at the scene and could not witness the specific process, it did not prevent Mingshan from guessing what happened before. At this time, the wind blew and the ends of everyone's hair fluttered. Really, Naruto is such a big mouth. Ino, who was standing beside Shizune, complained to Choji in a rather depressed tone. Why do you have to go to such great lengths to irritate Lady Tsunade? Well, it's already happened. It's useless to say these things now. Choji was originally going to inform everyone about Mingshan's awakening and have breakfast, but he didn't expect that before he could finish his words, he was dragged to the street to watch the duel between Tsunade and Naruto. I'm going. At this moment, everyone heard the roar of the yellow-haired ghost and saw him charging straight towards the position where Tsunade was standing. This idiot. Shikamaru and Mingshan sighed together, covering their faces and not being able to bear to look directly at him. This guy actually raised his hand and attacked directly at others. His IQ. Forget it. Mingshan pondered for a moment, but still gritted his teeth and suddenly opened the window completely and raised his leg to kick the frame. Shikamaru looked at his action in confusion. What are you doing, Ming? Swish. Before Mingshan could reply, he swooped down and headed straight for the two of them. Boom. Tsunade saw Naruto rushing towards her and punching her. She dodged the attack very lightly and was about to stretch out her finger and flick it. Tsunade suddenly saw a shadow expanding between the two of them. She subconsciously looked up and said in surprise with Naruto. Ta. He easily caught Tsunade's attack and landed in the gap between the two of them. Hey, you woke up, Mingshan. Naruto said to him happily, then shook his head again and muttered, no, now. Please be quiet, Naruto. Mingshan scolded him very speechlessly. I heard from Shikamaru that she is now going back to our village to be the 5th Hokage. Damn it, Mingshan, even you are helping her speak. Naruto protested in dissatisfaction, but he was ignored. Then, Mingshan turned around and said, Tsunade, is it glorious to bully a minor like this? He complained to Tsunade helplessly. Humph, what does it have to do with you? Tsunade put away her fist in dissatisfaction. Under Mingshan's sudden interference, the fight between Naruto and Tsunade had to be forced to end. I didn't expect you to be still alive and kicking. She swung her arms and said to Mingshan venomously. Hey, can't you expect something good from me? Mingshan heard the words and twitched the corner of his mouth. What do you mean I'm still alive? Are you disappointed? Yes, very disappointed. Tsunade smiled and answered without hesitation, obviously still hating his behavior just now. Mingshan's cheeks twitched and he looked at her with a helpless smile, thinking, hey, if I had a choice, I really want to kick her a few times to vent my anger. Hey. Seeing him staring at her with ill intentions, Tsunade asked unhappily, are you there again, thinking about something dirty? Hey, I'm not. Mingshan was stunned. Is it not okay for me to stand here and stare blankly? Of course not, your eyes are too obscene. Tsunade took the coat handed over by Shizune from behind. It makes me very uncomfortable. Hey, that's too much. Puff. Hearing Tsunade say such explosive words to him, the other people standing at the scene, including the yellow-haired man, all turned their faces away and smiled secretly. Forget it, a good man doesn't fight with a woman. Silently comforting himself in his heart, Mengshan shook his head and turned around with a bitter face, too lazy to argue with Tsunade anymore. Ahem. Jiraiya, who had been watching the show nearby, finally noticed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. He quickly stopped laughing, walked out and laughed with everyone, saying, since the fight between Naruto and Tsunade is over, and Mengshan has woken up, let's go back to Konoha village now. Okay. Several people nodded in agreement. Hey. Upon hearing this, Choji and Naruto shouted in unison, attracting everyone's attention. What's wrong with you? Mengshan turned to look at them in surprise. I haven't had breakfast yet. Naruto and Jiraiya shouted in dissatisfaction, and just when Choji was about to join him in protest, bang. Hey, why are you hitting me? Chapter 281 Trace Toxins. Idiot, I thought you were going to say something. Mengshan came over and slapped him hard on the back of his head, saying unhappily, I just woke up and haven't had breakfast yet. Let's leave Tansho Street directly and eat dry food on the road. Huh. Huang Mao was dumbfounded. Why is that? TSK, why are you talking so much nonsense? If you have time, why don't you go back to your room and clean up? Under Mengshan's repeated scolding and urging, Huang Mao left reluctantly. Really, it's so troublesome. Shikamaru, who had been looking down at the situation below from the upstairs window, saw Naruto scratching his head and complaining while walking and going back to clean up. He also shook his head and left to prepare for the return journey. It's true that there is always someone who can defeat you. Jiraiya sighed as he stood there. After being scolded fiercely by Mengshan, he went back to clean up the mess. He felt a little sour in his heart. It would be nice if Naruto could listen to me like this. Ino followed Shizune back to the street to buy some other things and prepare to leave for the village. She also dragged Choji away with her. Hey. Mengshan had just taken a few steps when he heard Tsunade's voice behind him. He turned around and asked her in confusion, what's up? Well, you just woke up. Don't you feel any discomfort? Tsunade suddenly restrained her previous bad attitude towards him and asked seriously. Mengshan did not react for a while and asked her, what did you say you were feeling unwell? I'm talking to you. Tsunade saw that he was so slow when he shouldn't be, and she had the urge to hold her forehead and go crazy. You have swallowed so many Binglian pills in a row in the past few days, and then you took the secret medicine of the Akimichi clan. Do you think you are dying? Huh, I think I'm dying? Mengshan pointed at himself, puzzled. What do you mean by this? A lot of residual toxins from the Binglian pills have accumulated in your body. Tsunade told him straight to the point, and the ancestral secret medicines of the Akimichi clan have extremely strong side effects after refining. No way. The Akimichi clan has side effects. I know. Mengshan was really surprised. And the Binglian pills I took are also poisonous? Nonsense. After taking the Binglian pills, trace amounts of toxic element will accumulate in the human body. Tsunade took out a small glass bottle from her waist, which was filled with Binglian pills that she usually took. If you only take a little bit occasionally to replenish chakra, the impact can be ignored and will not harm the human body, but you take these Binglian pills as meals. She reprimanded him very seriously. Are you playing with your life? Mengshan was speechless and did not refute Tsunade's words. He had indeed taken Binglian pills too frequently in recent times. Since he took on the task of patrolling the northern border, he has been taking drugs continuously, almost without any breaks. He first met Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame, went to the fire temple to subdue the violent Jinchuriki, and then fought desperately with the Earth Country troops. On the way back to the village, he ran into Genma who was being hunted. In order to rescue Shikaku, he joined forces with the 10th team and went to the northeastern sea to rescue him. Mengshan swallowed the secret medicines of the Akimichi family at the most critical moment of the war, and after dealing with Hyde, he fell directly on the water and fell unconscious. But fortunately, last night, I have used magic to help you remove most of the toxins in your body. Now if you don't continue to swallow the soldier's pills, I believe you can recover your normal physiology after a period of recuperation. Tsunade said, turned around, and said with her back to him, you are lucky to meet me in Tansho Street. If you had waited until you returned to the village to get treatment, it would be hard to say whether you could survive. Hey, so I have to repay you? Mingshan instinctively complained when he heard him say that. Tsunade heard him say that, but she simply snorted coldly, didn't talk nonsense with him, and left directly. Another breeze blew through the street, and now only Jiraiya and Mingshan were left standing there. The two suddenly made eye contact. You glared at me, I glared at you. The scene was as funny as it could be. Go ahead. You go first. Why are you being so polite to me? Speak up. Then why are you being so polite to me? Speak first. Just as the two of them were talking endlessly, Tsunade, who had already walked several meters away, finally couldn't help but burst out with veins on her forehead and shouted, are you two done yet? Are you also free? No. Seeing Tsunade's rage, Mingshan and Jiraiya ran away awkwardly, not daring to stay there and talk nonsense. When it was almost noon, everyone gathered at the gate of Tansho Street. Is everyone here? Jiraiya asked, scanning the crowd. Everyone is here, Jiraiya-sama. Shikamaru answered for everyone. Hey, wait a minute. Just as the group was about to leave, Mingshan suddenly realized that something was wrong. What's wrong, Mingshan? Shizune turned her eyes to look at him. Why didn't I see Uncle Shikaku? Where is he? Mingshan couldn't help asking, after looking around several times. You mean Dad? Shikamaru scratched his head when he heard that. I forgot to tell you that he went back to Konoha yesterday morning and told us to follow Jiraiya and Tsunade back home. Oh, so that's it. Mingshan suddenly realized, no wonder I couldn't find him after looking for him for a long time. TSK, you're the one who has the most trouble. Tsunade muttered dissatisfiedly. Ahem. Mingshan pretended not to hear and said to everyone, let's go. Everyone else saw through it, but didn't say anything. Jiraiya also heard from Shizune about what happened between him and Tsunade. It would be a lie to say that he didn't have any envy, jealousy, or hatred. Looking at the two of them, he felt that the journey would not be too leisurely. He sighed in his heart. Really, it seems that there will be some trouble on the way back. Just as they set off to return to Konoha, at this moment, outside the Hokage's office building. What did you say? Asuma looked at Hong in disbelief. They? Shh. Seeing Asuma's loud voice, Hong quickly raised a finger to his lips and indicated with his eyes that the two of them were still standing outside the building. Keep your voice down and come with me. He knew he had said something wrong, so he quickly kept silent and followed Hong out of the vicinity of the Hokage's office building and finally arrived at a place in the park. Chapter 280 To a sudden moment. Why would they send someone to do this? As soon as they stood at the edge of a bush, Asuma asked Hong angrily and puzzledly. I don't know the details, but... Hong hesitated and didn't say the rest. But what? Asuma asked instinctively. It seems that before the two advisors made this decision, Danzo came to the Hokage office building to find them. Hong hesitated again and again, but still said it. Danzo? Asuma was stunned and naturally recalled the tit-for-tat between Mingshan and Danzo that day. He subconsciously guessed, could it be that he, Asuma? Hong suddenly reminded him, frowned deeply, and shook his head to signal him not to say it out loud. There are some things that we didn't witness at the scene, so don't jump to conclusions. Although Asuma understood that she meant for him to be careful, he still couldn't help but said, but I still think that they are going too far. Han closed his eyes and said, shaking his head, this matter is far beyond our ability, and there is nothing we can do about it. If you come back tomorrow and find out about this, then... Hong listened to him quietly and didn't say anything. She just looked at Asuma with complicated and helpless eyes and sighed. He was quite helpless when he saw Hong's expression. Tomorrow. Hot spring. Well, there's a nice hot spring town in front of here, far off the main road. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade in confusion, not knowing what she was thinking. When they were only 2 or 3 kilometers away from Fangfang Street, Tsunade called them to stop. Yun no Sato, hot spring. Tomorrow took the magazine borrowed from Shizune and read it out loud. It's Yunomura Onsen. Tsunade on the side corrected him unhappily. You can't even read Chinese characters. You're so uncultured. Hey, the literal meaning. Actually, isn't it the same? Mingxin silently muttered in his heart and despised her. The meaning of Japanese traditional Chinese characters is not exactly the same as the traditional Chinese annotations. He curled his lips and flipped through the magazine. It naturally gushes out from the ground, and this natural spring water contains trace element and minerals that are beneficial to human health. Hey. After a brief pause, he continued to read other content. Its efficacy can relieve travel fatigue and maintain good skin elasticity and beauty. Huh, isn't this just a promotional advertisement? He closed the notebook with both hands and complained about Tsunade speechlessly. Really? Ino, who was beside him, was very excited when she heard it. She clapped her hands happily. Let's go to the hot spring street right away. Hey. Mingxin saw that things were going to develop in a strange direction and hurriedly spoke to dissuade her. Don't we still have to hurry back? How can we really go to the hot spring street? That's right. Naruto nodded and agreed with Mingxin, saying, we should go back directly. Everyone is waiting. Naruto and Mingxin are right. The village is in an emergency now. Jiraiya also said to Tsunade, there is no time to dawdle here. Well, we can travel 2 days in 1 day, so that we can solve the time problem, and Tsunade said to everyone nonchalantly, and whispered to Jiraiya's ear, I heard that this place is very popular with young girls, and you can go to any store to take a hot spring bath, and they all support mixed bathing. Jiraiya, who was originally shaking his head in opposition, was shocked by the explosive news. His eyes immediately opened wide, and a brilliant light burst out, which made Mingxin feel a little blind. Without saying a word, he raised his legs and walked straight towards a certain road. Hey, a lecherous immortal? Naruto looked at his behavior in confusion. Mingxin raised his eyebrows, and after looking at Tsunade, he guessed a possibility in his heart. Could this old guy? People need to relax properly occasionally. Let's go to the hot springs, and then continue our journey. Jiraiya taught the yellow-haired man with a lewd look on his face, and said to others in passing, TSK, if you want to see a girl, just say it directly. Mingxin blurted out and complained, not hiding his contempt for Jiraiya. Yeah, that's not what you said just now. The yellow-haired man was also speechless about his sudden betrayal. Hey, Jiraiya, no objection, it's okay, let's go. Tsunade saw this and was very good at speaking up to encourage everyone and guide the conversation in a direction that was beneficial to her. Great. Seeing that the two adults agreed to go to the hot spring town to rest, Ino was happy to agree to go there. But Choji beside her didn't care as long as he could get delicious snacks in the store over there. Really, it's so troublesome. We actually have to stay here to take a hot spring bath. Shikamaru sighed. He was the same as usual. Although he scratched his head and felt that it was troublesome, he had to follow the crowd. Ahem. Jiraiya now imitated what he did the day before and commanded everyone, saying, let's go to the hot spring town to stay and check in. This Jiraiya. Shizune smiled bitterly, watching everyone follow Jiraiya, and, under his leadership, noisily walked towards the destination, the hot spring town. That's her, that's right. Somewhere behind them that they couldn't see, two people were secretly crouching and peeping. Finally we found her. One of them held a photo in his hand and compared it with Tsunade. It seemed that she was their target. He said to his companion excitedly, we are finally going to make it. Well, let's go. Let's hurry up and catch up. Okay. After walking for nearly 2 hours, they finally arrived at the place Tsunade said. After Mingxin and his group found a hot spring B&B, they casually opened the door and went in to check in. Welcome to our store. As soon as they entered, a staff member came forward to greet them enthusiastically. After a long time. Thank you for your patience, guest. Let me confirm with you again. There are only 8 guests and a pig, right? The staff at the front desk respectfully wrote down the registration and asked Mingxin. Well, that's right, just open 2 rooms. Mingxin, who was responsible for booking the room, specifically instructed the staff. Okay, please wait. Hey, why only open 2 rooms? Tsunade asked her. Save money. Mingshin looked back at Tsunade in surprise and said, 2 rooms are enough for us to live in. Why do we need to book so many rooms? TSK, what a miser, so stingy. Tsunade muttered with a pout. After knowing the room number, she took the key, turned around and walked upstairs, causing Jingayan, who was standing behind her, to have to smile bitterly, and not to mention to apologize. Chapter 283 Begging on the Street. Alas, this loser woman. Mingshin couldn't help but shake his head and sigh, then took the key and went upstairs with Jiraiya and Shikamaru to find a room. Click, click. After searching upstairs for a while, they soon found their own room, which was 2 rooms away from the room where Ino and the others were. A certain white-haired wretched man entered the room and changed into a yukata very quickly, then said to the little ghosts in a careless manner, hey, I'm going to soak in the hot spring for a while, you guys hurry up too. Without waiting for them to say anything, he left in a flash. Hey, while I was opening the balcony window for ventilation, he had already changed all his clothes. Mingshin couldn't help but complain, he's really fast. Well, I really don't understand Master Jiraiya. What's so exciting about taking a hot spring bath? Shikamaru didn't understand the dirty thoughts of adults and shook his head. Forget it, who cares? Gurgle, gurgle. Hey, what's that sound again this time? Ringing in the room? I'm so hungry. Mingshin heard it, turned his head in surprise, and found that it was Choji standing next to him, and his stomach made a gurgling protest. I'm talking to you. Didn't we just eat some dry food 2 hours ago? Shikamaru said to Choji with a headache. Why, are you hungry again? Yeah, I haven't eaten well all this time, and I don't want to continue eating those military ration pills. I'm tired of them. Choji said while stroking his stomach. Oh, this is really troublesome. Shikamaru scratched his head helplessly. Let's go. I'll go with you to find something to eat. Yeah, okay. Hearing this, Choji nodded happily, and then the 2 of them didn't even change their clothes, and walked straight out of the room, to find something to eat first. Okay. I don't know when he started changing clothes, but the yellow-haired man actually learned from Jiraiya, and changed into a yukata quickly. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a hot spring bath. You should change your clothes quickly too. After greeting him, he left straight away, and rushed to the hot spring. Really? After the yellow-haired man left, Mingshin was the only one left in the room. He smiled bitterly, and shook his head. He didn't rush to change clothes, and take a hot spring bath, but was ready to organize some of his things first, such as the scroll that he accidentally got from Xianmui in the previous dream. What the hell is going on? Mingshin looked at this scroll, and still felt it was incredible. Although he had secretly weighed it several times along the way, he still felt very strange that the dream was actually real. He sat down on the tatami without any image, looking at the blue sky outside the window, muttering, Yashi, Xianmui. Xianmui said that the living people in this world could not see her, and she could not touch the people in this world. But why could he touch her? Could it be the 2 ancient symbols that Fang Zhu gave me? He thought seriously for a while. It played a key role at the most critical moment of that night. He found that it should be like this. But why did I never meet Xianmui in my dreams before? Only after this naval battle, in the dream. Thinking about it, he shook his head. Although he couldn't figure it out, he decided to wait until he returned to the village and had time to think about it. He had made up his mind to seal the scroll properly in the space tomorrow, put the things in his waist bag neatly, and then stood up again, raised his legs and walked forward. He planned to go out and take a walk, to relax instead of rushing to take a hot spring bath. Dang. Ta. As he just knocked on the door and closed it, he turned around and saw 2 ghostly figures behind him, secretly watching Mingshin and slowly leaving. Are we going out now? One of them asked his companion cautiously. No, let's wait a little longer. The little ghost hasn't gone far yet. It will be bad if he finds us. The companion said very calmly. Okay, I'll listen to you. Click, click. Mingshin didn't know that, just as he went downstairs, the keyhole of the door had been quietly pried open and a thief sneaked in. Hey, Shizune, hurry up and pick up Tunten and go. I know, Lady Tsunade. Hey, that voice. Mingshan, who had just come down the stairs, turned his eyes subconsciously and looked up after hearing a familiar voice from above. Why is it you? The man and Mingshan said in unison. TSK. Hey, Tsunade, aren't you going to the hot spring? Mingshan pulled his face awkwardly but politely, smiled at her and asked. HMPH, I'm going to wait until a certain idiot finishes the hot spring. Tsunade narrowed her eyes and replied, without much politeness in her tone. After saying that, she turned around and said, Shizune, let's go out and play marbles next. It's still a long time before dinner starts. Okay, Tsunade-sama. The two came from behind, responded in unison, and walked side by side with her. The three of them went downstairs quickly, and when passing Mingshan's place, he took the initiative to dodge to the side in the spirit of civility and courtesy. Seeing that he was so sensible and took the initiative to give way, Tsunade didn't want to say anything to him, so she quickly took Ano and Shizune past him and left. Hey, Sister Shizune, why did Mingshan call Tsunade-sama by her name without using any honorifics? After the others came out, Ino couldn't help but ask Shizune beside her about this matter. She had always felt it was strange since the time in Tansho Street. Well, this question is a long story. Let's go to the game room first and talk while playing. Shizune followed Tsunade with Tonton in her arms and said to her, okay. Ino nodded when she heard it, and she didn't say anything else at the moment, and ran to the game room with the two of them. Finally, I can have some peace and quiet for a while. Mingshan opened the door of the store and walked out after they left, walking slowly towards the other side of the street. Hey, you know what? I didn't expect that there is such a street specializing in hot spring resort business in the land of fire. He looked at the crowds on the street, moving around, and felt that it would be a good choice to let himself get lost in this leisure time occasionally. Although I really want to complain about Tsunade, this place is indeed a good place, as she said on the way. In the future, he was about to think that he could bring Red Bean and Hotaru to take a hot spring bath together, but he suddenly remembered that the girl had already. Is there any kind-hearted uncle who can help this poor little beggar like me? Just as he was immersed in his memories and unable to extricate himself for a long time, an abrupt voice woke Mingshan back to his senses from his trance. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Master. Hey, who is yelling? He turned his eyes in astonishment and found a boy in rather funny clothes sitting on the ground at a street corner, holding a broken bowl and yelling at the passers-by. Mingshan saw that, although he was in ragged clothes, he was quite energetic and did not seem to have suffered from hunger for a long time. Could it be that he? Thinking of a certain possibility, the corner of his mouth twitched, and he looked at the guy speechlessly, just about to turn around. Suddenly, the guy seemed to sense his gaze, and was also stunned for a moment, turned his eyes, and the two of them met eyes. Fuck, no. Mingshan subconsciously wanted to turn around and leave, but unexpectedly, bang, bang, uncle, sir. The beggar threw away the broken bowl he was holding, and crawled over to him, hugging his thighs. Please be kind, I haven't eaten for several days, woo woo. Hey, just talk, don't hug my thighs. Mingshan yelled at him angrily, feeling bad. Hey, look at those two kids. A passerby stopped and pointed at them. Why does the kid sitting on the ground keep hugging his thighs? I think there must be some shameful secret between them. Someone next to him guessed maliciously. No way. Hey, if you don't believe me, just wait and see. Oh no. Mingshan saw more and more passers-by gathering around, and that guy took the opportunity to cry and wail. I'm so miserable. My father died in an accident at the construction site, and my mother ran away with another man. I'm the only one left at home, wandering outside alone and helpless. I haven't eaten for several days. Woo woo. Hey, I didn't expect him to be so miserable. That's right, look at that kid. He has no sympathy at all, and he doesn't help. Oh, don't say it. The world can't even help the elderly now. It has changed a long time ago. Mingshan listened to the gossip of these passers-by and he was so depressed. You guys are so loving. What were you doing before? Cough. He let out a loud dry cough and helplessly scolded the guy who was clinging to his thigh. Okay, stop howling. Mingshan's face looked extremely ugly, and he said to him in a deflated manner, hurry up and let go of your thighs. I'm taking you to eat. Isn't that okay? Oh, child, take a good look. People nowadays, just having a few stinky money there to intimidate the vulnerable groups so arrogantly. A white-haired old man who stopped to watch the onlookers reached out to stroke his grandson's little head, pointed at Mingshan and taught him, when we grow up, don't learn from him, understand? Yeah, I remember, Grandpa. The child nodded in response to the adult. Hey, why do you use me as a negative example? Seeing that the old man was so excessive, Mingshan wanted to refute him, but unfortunately he was entangled by the beggar at his feet and couldn't get away directly. He could only sigh in his heart, if I had known it would be like this, I should have stayed in the store to soak in the hot spring. Hey, it's okay, let go, kid. I won't let go unless you are willing. It's really fucked if you don't let go. What should I do? After a lot of trouble, Mingshan finally got rid of the crowd's attention and brought the guy to a snack shop. Uncle, what are you doing? The man followed Mingshan to the door of the store and asked him in confusion. Bringing you here to eat hot spring buns, really? He shook his head and sighed, pointing to the door of the store. Why don't you open the door and go in quickly? Oh, okay. The man nodded and opened the door in surprise and was about to run in first. Hello, welcome. Bang, ouch. He was actually kicked out of the store by someone. Where did you come from, you stinky beggar? What are you doing here? A middle-aged man dressed as a boss walked out with his hands on his hips and was about to continue yelling. Hey, boss, I brought him in. Mingshan stretched out his hand and stopped the beggar, saying, I want to invite him to eat in the store. Guest, you can invite him to eat, but the boss was embarrassed when he heard this. We still have to open the store to do business. If we let him in rashly, it will scare other guests in the house. Hey, boss, how can you do this? Am I not a human being? The beggar got up from the ground and protested angrily. I'm also here to consume. Hey, talk less. Before he finished speaking, Mingshan hurriedly stopped him from saying the rest, nodded to the boss and apologized. I'm really sorry, how about this? He stretched out his hand and held up the boss's arm while he dragged the man into the house and did not forget to tell the beggar to wait for him outside. What the hell is he doing? What is he whispering to the boss? And why won't he let me in? The beggar saw the two people enter the house, but he stayed outside, muttering in dissatisfaction. Gurgle, gurgle. This hungry feeling is really uncomfortable. The beggar's stomach rumbled, and the only thing he could do at this moment was to stretch out his hand as much as possible, to touch and rub it more, trying to relieve some of the hunger. After a long time, Mingshan finally opened the door and walked out with the boss. You are out, uncle. Do you have anything to eat? He asked Mingshan expectantly. Yes, it's all here. Mingshan pouted, raised the bulging bag in his hand, and shook it in front of him. Wow, great. The beggar was extremely surprised. He stretched out his hand and wanted to grab it to eat, but unexpectedly, bang, ouch. Why did you hit my hand? The beggar rubbed his painful hand and asked Mingshan in a depressed tone. I'm almost starving to death. Are you still unwilling to give me food? It's not that I don't want to give you food, Mingshan said to him unhappily. It's just that we have to find a place to sit down and eat properly. Who would stand on the street and grab something to eat like you? It's so ugly. You're right. After the two said goodbye to the boss, he elbowed the beggar and motioned him to follow him. The beggar nodded and followed him around, trying to ask him, where are we going? Let's go. Over there. He pointed. Over there? The beggar looked in the direction of Mingshan's finger and found that it was a place near the river where there were several big trees growing. Okay. He walked there with Mingshan, and after hurriedly washing his hands with river water, he grabbed the bag of things and devoured it. Chapter 285. Scrape the bottom of the pot. Hey, eat slowly, no one will snatch it from you. Really? Mingshan saw him like this, and while trying to stop him, he couldn't help but think of the time when he first crossed over His situation didn't seem to be much better than the beggar in front of him, and was even worse. Delicious. If it's delicious, eat more. If you're thirsty, go to the river and drink some water. Got it. After wolfing down his food for a long time, he finally slowed down his eating speed and gradually calmed down. Are you full? Yeah. Burp. He burped loudly and threw the half-eaten hot spring bun in his hand back into the bag, intending to save it for next time. Thank you very much for your kindness. After digesting a little, he immediately knelt on his knees, stretched out his hands, and hugged Mingshan's thighs again, saying words of thanks. Hey, just talk, don't keep hugging my thighs, buddy. After Mingshan's speechless push, the beggar laughed and let go of his hands. What's your name, kid? I'm a big eater who wanders around the world. People give me the nickname, scrape the bottom of the pot Achi. My real name is Dotonbori. Stop. Mingshan didn't wait for him to finish and quickly stretched out his hand to stop him and said tactfully, Achi, you can introduce yourself. I already know your name. Hey, but I haven't finished saying my real name yet. It's okay, the name is not important. Don't you have a nickname? Just call me Achi. Oh, okay. Achi responded and then asked him, then uncle, what's your name? Am I that old? Mingshan felt bad when he heard him still call him that. With a dark face, he introduced himself awkwardly. I'm Ito Mingshan from Konoha village. China Mobile and China Unicum. It's China Mobile. No, it's Ito Mingshan. He was misled by Achi and almost shouted the wrong name himself. In order to avoid an awkward atmosphere, Mingshan coughed dryly and quickly changed the subject. Achi, why are you begging here? The money is gone. Arkai answered him without thinking. The money is gone. Mingshan was confused after hearing this. What do you mean by the money is gone? Well, on the way to this hot spring street, I spent all the money on food. Arkai reached into the bag again and took out the half-eaten bun and started to eat it. Hey, please don't tell me. Mingshan's heart skipped a beat. After you spend all your money, you won't always yes, just as you think. Before Mingshan could finish, Arkai said the rest of the words for him nonchalantly. I've been begging on this hot spring street for a long time, and it wasn't until I met you at the corner that I was really saved. Fuck. Hearing Akai's words, Mingshan slapped his face expressionlessly. Why am I so unlucky? 1,000 horses were galloping through his heart. Why don't you just give him a nickname called Rice Bowl Likarakian if you have a son in the future? Mingshan couldn't help but complain to him from the bottom of his heart. Then you two can just make a couple. Hey, that's a good nickname. Unexpectedly, he didn't feel ashamed of what he said casually and nodded happily to agree with Mingshan. In the future, if I really have a son, I'll give him this nickname. Thank you, sir. Mingshan was stunned when he heard that. He was speechless. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such a shameless person. Uncle, stop. Just call me Mingshan. Don't call me uncle. I'm not even 70 or 80 years old. Mingshan interrupted Arkai's next words and sternly corrected him before he could finish. Hey, it all means the same thing. Arkai stopped and said to him, didn't you say that a name can be remembered as long as it's easy to remember? I think it's more convenient to call you uncle. You should just call me by my name, Mingshan. He sighed helplessly. Calling me uncle is really a bit unacceptable. Oh, okay. Seeing that he insisted, Arkai had to change his words. So where are we going next tomorrow? Well, next, wait. He was about to nod when he found that there was something wrong with Arkai's statement. What do you mean by we? I will follow you from now on. What? Fuck. Mingshan was frightened by his words and stepped back repeatedly. He then grabbed Arkai's collar like a ferocious monster. What a joke. Who wants you to follow me? Hey, anyway, I have no one to rely on now, so I might as well follow you. Arkai scratched his head and told him the truth. At least I can still have food to eat. Hey, why are you clinging to me? Mingshan wanted to go crazy. Fuck you. What kind of brain circuit logic is this? Because to be honest, I've been begging here for so long, and you are the only one who took the initiative to buy me food. Arkai said this in a serious manner. Other passers-by, at most, just throw some things they don't need into my bowl. Stop it, okay? Mingshan was choked by the words, loosened his collar, and negotiated helplessly. How about this? I'll give you some travel expenses. Go home early. Begging outside. It's also not nice to adults. Hey, what you said about my parents before is true. Huh? Mingshan was dumbfounded, looking at Arkai in disbelief. Did such a bloody romance story really happen in your family? Romance story? Arkai looked at him puzzledly. What the hell is that? That's not important. Mingshan coughed dryly and changed the subject. The important thing is, you really can't follow me. Why? Arkai couldn't accept his decisive answer. Is it because I'm more handsome than you? Mingshan was so angry at what Achi said that his face turned pale. Although he was not ugly and had a pretty face, it's not because of this reason. I'm still in the state of carrying out the mission, and I can't keep fooling around with you like today. He had no choice but to argue with Achi and say that he had a mission and made excuses to get by. Achi was really disappointed and anxious when he heard him say that. Then what should I do? Can I still go back to the village with you? Hey, you are not a resident of our village. Why are you in Konoha? Mingshan said in surprise. If there is no special reason in the ninja village, ordinary people will not stay for too long. Although he was not a native of Konoha village, he had the help of Elder Jiro at that time, and now he can barely make sense and think that he is a genuine local of Konoha. Chapter 286 Akaji Family. No way, it's so strict. Achi was quite helpless. I thought I could follow you to Konoha and live a peaceful life for a few days. You think too much, kid. Mingshan hit him at the right time. If everyone was like you, able to enter whenever they want, Konoha village would have been overcrowded long ago. Achi sighed in distress. Am I going to be like before, wandering around begging? Wandering. Mingshan, who had planned to part with him, was touched when he suddenly heard Achi say this, and he was stunned there. What's wrong with you? Seeing that he suddenly stopped talking, Arkai waved his hand in front of Mingshan in confusion. What's going on? Is he possessed? You are possessed. Mingshan, who came to his senses, heard him say this and cursed back instinctively. Really, I'm just thinking about something. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. Arkai responded, weighing the few remaining hot spring buns in the bag, and looked very worried. It seems that I have to eat sparingly. I'm talking to you. You have healthy limbs and good hands and feet. Can't you find a good job to support yourself? Mingshan advised him seriously. It's not that easy to find a job these days, and I'm only 12 or 13 years old. Who would be willing to hire a child? Arkai confided to Mingshan in a rather depressed manner. Well, I owe you this in my last life. Let's go. Mingshan shook his head, turned around and waved to him. Arkai didn't understand the situation for a moment. What's this? Come with me first. I'll think of a way to solve your livelihood problem later. Mingshan said unhappily with his back to him, and walked straight back. Hey, wait for me. Arkai didn't care about Mingshan's attitude, but followed him happily. I knew I didn't make a mistake. TSK, I must check the almanac before going out in the future. Almanac? Hey, why do you care so much? Hurry up. Oh. Just when the two of them had just walked a few steps away, Mingshan saw a very familiar yellow-haired boy running towards them in a hurry. Hey, Naruto? Hey, Mingshan? The two looked at each other and said in unison, why are you here? I have to go somewhere now. Naruto scratched his head and explained to him, someone broke in and stole the things I put in the room. What's missing? Mingshan asked him, feeling something was wrong. It's the jewelry that Tsunade-san gave me. Someone stole it. Naruto said angrily. It's so abominable. What? The necklace is lost. Mingshan was surprised when he heard that. Then why don't you go find Jiraiya for help and get the thing back together? What are you running around here for? Hey, why is he so excited? Arkai, who was standing behind him, was very surprised to see Mingshan scolding the yellow-haired boy so indignantly. It doesn't look like he lost the thing. Is it that serious? How could I run around? Naruto explained to him. Those little thieves are waiting for me under the 3 cedar trees on the back mountain of the hot spring street. Waiting for you? Mingshin wondered, why are they waiting for you under the 3 cedar trees on the back mountain? I don't know. The yellow-haired boy shook his head. They only left a note in the room, signed by the Akagi family, asking me to go to the back mountain. Here, look. Mingshin took the note from Naruto and frowned as he read the contents carefully. If you want the necklace back, just pay me back. I'll be waiting for you at the place with 3 cedar trees in the back hill. Akagi family. Hey, Akagi family? Mingshin felt familiar when he read the name. Hey, have I heard this name somewhere? What? Naruto didn't understand what he said for a moment. Do you know them? I shouldn't know them, but... Mingshin hesitated and shook his head, but he didn't finish his words. Well, if you don't know them, then you don't know them. What's there to be hesitant about? Naruto complained to him in dissatisfaction, and then he saw the ragged Achi standing behind Mingshin at the moment, and asked curiously, who is this man? His name is Achi, a beggar I met by chance on the road, about your age. Mingshin turned sideways to introduce Achi to Naruto. I was planning to bring him back to our place. Huh? What are you bringing him back for? Naruto was stunned. Let him find a job in our place and support himself. Mingshin explained to him. Well, why don't you let him find a job here? Naruto was puzzled. Why do you have to bring him back to the village? Naruto, who would want to hire him at his age? Mingshin said, pointing at Arkai. The rules of survival in the outside world cannot be compared with those in our village. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked him. Achi's parents are no longer around, and he doesn't have any special skills. Mingshin scratched his head and looked at Achi. Even if he stays here reluctantly, no one will hire him to work. Sooner or later, big problems will arise. Then how do you bring him back? Well, don't you still have to go to the back mountain of the hot spring street? As soon as he said this, Mingshin changed the subject and didn't intend to continue to talk nonsense with Naruto about Achi. You go quickly, I'm leaving. Oh, okay. Seeing Mingshin's insistence, Naruto didn't say anything more and went to do his own thing. Mingshin watched the boy run away from him, turned to Achi and said, come on, come back with me. Hey, is that jewelry very valuable? It looks like it's very important. Achi took the opportunity to ask Mingshin while Naruto was far away. If Naruto sells that jewelry, you can buy 3 mountains. What? 3 mountains? Achi exclaimed loudly, shocked by his words. Hey, keep your voice down. Mingshin saw passers-by looking at them with strange eyes. Oops. He quickly pointed his finger to signal Arkai to stop shouting. Fuck, I really admire you. It's just worth 3 mountains. Look at your ability. Mingshin scolded him unhappily, obviously forgetting the wonderful expression he had when he heard the value of the necklace from Shikamaru. I've grown up. This is the first time I've heard of such priceless jewelry. Arkai scratched his head embarrassedly. Okay, don't be surprised. Let's go. Mingshin urged him. Yeah. Arkai responded, followed him, and they all quickened their pace back to the B&B. After walking for a while, Mingshin brought him to the door of the store. Chapter 287 Placement. Hey, wait a minute. Achi, don't walk so fast. What's wrong? Achi, who was walking in front, was about to reach out to open the door when he was stopped by Mingshin behind him. Do you still want to be scolded and kicked out in front of others? Mingshin asked him with a strange look on his face. Well, you should come. Achi heard this, smiled awkwardly and scratched his head and made a gesture of invitation. Mingshin shook his head when he saw this. He walked forward a few steps, opened the door and went in. He first communicated with the front desk staff and then invited Achi in. As soon as they entered the door, the staff standing at the front desk, although they had greeted them in advance, still showed a very obscure expression of disgust. This made Mingshin pretend to ignore it and walked straight with Achi, went up to the 2nd floor, and soon came to the outside of their room. Hey, no way, who did this? A few steps away, Mingshin could clearly hear the complaints of Shikamaru in the room. Really, our things are messed up. It seems that there really is a thief in the room. Mingshin thought to himself, and then walked into the room with Arkai. As soon as he opened the door, he said to Shikamaru and Choji, hey, Shikamaru, Choji, didn't you go out to eat? Look, I just came back from eating with him. Shikamaru turned his back to Mingshin and the others. pursed his lips, gestured and glanced at Choji, who was stuffing potato chips into his mouth while looking for something at the other end, and sighed. Really, as soon as we entered the room, we saw that our things were rummaged through and thrown everywhere. Oh, I know. Hey, you knew? Naruto has just gone out to chase those thieves who broke into our room and stole things. Don't worry. Mingshin comforted Shikamaru, and as he spoke, he bent down to pick up his belongings that were thrown on the ground. Shikamaru, check first to see if there is anything valuable missing. Well, this is really troublesome. By the way, Jiraiya, Shikamaru said, and when he turned to look at Mingshin, he was startled. What's wrong, Shikamaru? Choji felt very strange when he saw Shikamaru suddenly stop talking and turned his head. Why are you? He was also startled. At this moment, both of them were surprised by the sudden appearance of Achi behind Mingshin. Who are you? Shikamaru asked the other party hesitantly. Why did you appear in our? Oh, I brought him here. His name is Achi. Mingshin explained to Shikamaru and Choji. Hey, Achi. Shikamaru saw that his clothes were tattered, and his age was about the same as his, so he turned his head and questioned Mingshin. What's going on? Well, this is what happened, Shikamaru. Choji. Mingshin told that to the whole story. After a long time, Shikamaru and Choji finally digested this information. Well, this is what happened. After listening to Mingshin's story, Shikamaru said subconsciously, TSK, this is a headache. He pulled him to the window with some difficulty, and after keeping a distance from him, he said, Mingshin, after all, we all sneaked out of the village, and we don't know what punishment we will receive when we go back. Besides, if this matter is not handled well, it will be very troublesome. If you just help out a little, it's okay, but I don't think it's a good idea to bring Arkai back to Konoha. Shikamaru persuaded him. After all, I know what you mean, Shikamaru. Thank you. Mingshin nodded, understanding that he was doing it for his own good. When Jiraiya comes back later, I will talk to him about this myself. Well, okay. Seeing that Mingshin said so himself, Shikamaru didn't know what to say, so he just said, however, when I came back, the room was still so messy. Lord Jiraiya is probably still soaking in the hot spring. Do you want to go and see? Hey, that toad is still taking a hot spring bath. Mingshin was speechless after hearing what Shikamaru said. That guy was just trying to see a beautiful woman. Was he really going to such lengths? Forget it. I just happened to be taking him to take a bath, so I'll go there for a while. He pulled Arkai along, picked up a yukata from the ground, threw it to him and said, catch it. Boom. Mingshin, what are you doing? Arkai instinctively caught the clothes and looked at him in confusion. Take off your dirty clothes quickly and stuff them into the garbage bag on the side. I'll get you some old clothes. After saying that, he told Arkai to change into the yukata first and then walked out of the room and left. Mingshin came to the front desk and got another yukata. He also negotiated with the staff to buy a set of old men's clothes ready to give to Arkai to change into after taking a hot spring bath. After a long time had passed, finally everything is done. Mingshin returned to the room briskly with clothes in his hand. He saw that Achi had not left yet, but Shikamaru and Choji had also changed into yukatas. He felt strange. Achi, why are you still here? Didn't I ask you to go to the hot spring? Well, I asked him to wait here. Shikamaru stretched out his finger and scratched his slightly itchy cheek. I think it's better for us to go together. Oh, is that so? Mingshin suddenly realized. Then you wait a moment. I'll change clothes right away. Mingshin is here now. After he changes into his yukata, we can go to the hot spring, right? Achi suddenly spoke at this time and asked Shikamaru with a little eagerness in his tone. Hey, of course you can. Shikamaru turned his head to look at Achi in surprise. Why, are you in a hurry to go to the hot spring now? Not really. Seeing him questioning like this, Achi scratched his head awkwardly. I usually just take a shower with river water, but today I can take a hot spring bath, so I can't help but be a little excited. He said with a smile. We just met before. I'm a little reserved. Hey, it seems that you and Shikamaru are not very familiar with each other now, right? Mingshan silently complained about Achi in his heart, but he didn't slack off in his hands, but became more swift, standing there and changing into a yukata, while Mingshan and Shikamaru were chatting in the room, at the back mountain of the hot spring street. "Hey, I'm here." Naruto came to the back mountain, and shouted at the 3 empty cedar trees, "Come out quickly, Akaji family." Not long after Naruto shouted, 2 people responded and appeared from behind a tree. When they caught sight of Naruto, they were all quite surprised. "Hey, what's the matter with you, kid? I still have something to ask you." Naruto took a few steps forward angrily. "I don't owe you any money, so give me back the necklace." "Your necklace?" one of them said in surprise, and he looked at his companion. Chapter 288 The Debt Collectors. "Hey, I thought it was that woman's thing." The companion took out the necklace. "Yes, that's it. Give it back to me." Naruto saw that his necklace was in the other's hand, and instinctively yelled at them and rushed over. "Hey, wait a minute." The 2 saw Naruto rushing over aggressively, and just opened their mouths to stop him. Shadow clone technique. Naruto did not allow others to explain, and raised his hand to cast the technique. Bang, bang, bang. A burst of white smoke passed by, and many Naruto ran towards them aggressively. "Let's go." The yellow-haired man took the lead, jumping into the air, and rushed towards the other party with his many clones. This is a misunderstanding." The 2 brothers were dumbfounded on the spot, and in a hurry, they hurriedly signaled to Naruto to stop, but he ignored them directly. "2 thieves, watch out. Go." "Okay." Bang, 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 bang. "Oh, help. Someone really came in." Plop. "Wow." But Jiraiya, who was still soaking in the hot spring, and talking to himself, had his face wet by the splashing water again. He looked around, and cried out in despair, "Why are there only men here? Boy, what are you talking about? Asshole, stop talking nonsense. If you keep making noise, I'll carry you out, and throw you away." After being scolded by the strong men in the pool, Jiraiya became much more honest and lamented unfortunately. "Hey, I want to soak with women." "Heh, I knew you, a toad, would have another crazy idea." Someone was very good at choosing the right time to mock him. "TSK, I'm talking to you, boy." Jiraiya was very unhappy. He turned his head, glared at him, and scolded with a curled lip, "Can you speak human language?" "Hey, aren't I saying it?" Mingshan glanced at this guy with a squint. "Hey, you guy." He wanted to get up and settle the score with the seaweed head, but he was helpless. The whole pool was too crowded, and it was difficult to even move his body a little. "Damn it, either don't come, or I'll come to take a hot spring bath. It's really fucked up." Fucked up. At another place on the left side of Jiraiya, where there were also a lot of strong men, Shikamaru turned his head with difficulty, and looked at the adult. He said with surprise, "Jiraiya-sama, what did you just say?" Jiraiya heard the question, and knew he had said something wrong. He scratched his head awkwardly to explain to Shikamaru, "Well, it's nothing, you just heard it wrong." But in his heart he was secretly annoyed with himself. "TSK, I was influenced by that kid. I actually learned to swear subconsciously from him." Crash. It's so comfortable. Choji was not as noisy as them. He sighed indifferently. "It's crowded, it's no big deal." "Yeah, Choji, I think this hot spring is really nice too." Even Kai, who was beside him, nodded in agreement, agreeing with what Choji said, with a look of enjoyment on his face. "Hey, I've been wanting to ask you guys since just now, who is this person?" After hearing what Choji and Kai said, Jiraiya turned his gaze to Shikamaru and Mingshan and asked, "Hey, don't look at me, Master Jiraiya." Shikamaru shook his head and pointed his mouth at Mingshan. "Ask him." Just as Mingshan was about to explain something to Jiraiya. Wow. Oh, this hot spring is really comfortable. It's time to get up, brother. Haha, okay, let's go have a drink together later. Okay, let's go. After the strong men who were soaking around them had made their decision, they suddenly got up and left, causing a large splash of water. Wow. Hey, just go if you want to. Why are you kicking my butt? Mingshan felt someone scratching his butt with a toe, which gave him goosebumps all over his body. He cursed in dissatisfaction. Be careful when you stand up. Hey, young man, we are all men. Do you have to react so violently? Haha. An 8-foot strong man with a tattoo on his back patted him on the shoulder nonchalantly and quickly walked out of the pool and left. Hey. Even Shikamaru, who had been hiding in the corner and kept silent, was squeezed to the point of no return and began to persuade. Hey, just come out, don't push. He murmured in frustration. Really, coming to the hot spring can cause me such trouble. Well, what's the point of saying this now? Hurry up and avoid them. Hey, I told you, don't touch my butt, bastard. Oh, it was an accident. We are all men. Don't make such a fuss, kid. Damn. Just when Jiraiya and Menshin were making a fuss in the hot spring. Hey, is it Granny Tsunade who owes you money? Naruto successfully took back the necklace from the other party and said in surprise. Yes. The two men knelt down and answered him truthfully. She is known as the legendary Big Fat Sheep. She played in our Akaji family's casino and lost all her money. She has accumulated gambling debts that have not yet been repaid. He is right. Here is the IOU, said another companion, afraid that he would not believe it, and took out the IOU from his arms. Naruto took it casually, started reading, and was shocked and said, "Hey." He almost got furious and said tremblingly, this, so many loose ends. Yes. My name is Zenta. One of the men with a blue-gray bandage on his head pointed to his companion and introduced. His name is Bunzo. He told the yellow-haired man in a rather bleak tone, the boss sent us here to collect the debt 3 years ago. We swore to the boss when we left the Akaji family. The guy named Bunzo spoke for his companion. We will never go back until we get the money back. We set out from Akaji Mountain and embarked on a journey to find Tsunade. Zenta went on to say with a heavy face, although we have heard a lot of rumors about her in various places, she is really elusive, and we have never been able to find her. After a slight pause, but recently, we suddenly heard that the eldest sister appeared again. Bunzo continued with the topic, so we hurriedly waited for her at the intersection of the street. So, we saw Granny Tsunade coming here with us. Naruto didn't wait for Bunzo to finish, but he had another question. But why did you sneak into our room? Because it is said that the big fat sheep in the legend is very difficult to deal with. Zenta told the truth and shook his head. Even if we go to Tsunade to collect the debt in person, she will definitely not pay. Chapter 289. Jiraiya who refuses to give up. Well, she is really stingy. The yellow-haired man nodded in agreement, not feeling that he was wronging Tsunade. We thought that, if we use this necklace, which is said to be second only to her own life, in exchange, Zenta said with full of heart, she might pay us back. That's impossible. Naruto shook his head, because you sneaked into our room. Oh, it's true. We never thought that the necklace would change its owner. They sighed, and then mentioned, well, can you please come forward to help us get Sister Tsunade to pay us back? Huh. Naruto was a little dumbfounded when he heard it. Even if you and I are like this. When Zeo saw that Naruto was hesitating, and further begged him sincerely, please, if we don't get the money, we will never be able to go back. Yes, my wife and children are still waiting for us at home. Huh. The yellow-haired man was really overwhelmed by this situation. No matter what, please help. Hot Spring Street, inside a pachinko shop. Damn it. Lady Tsunade. Shizune saw that she was getting more and more addicted to the game, so she had to remind her in time, we have already lost everything. Yeah. Ino, who was standing on the other side, also spoke up and agreed with Shizune. It's time to go back, Lady Tsunade. She played for a while and then lost interest. TSK, how unlucky. Tsunade ignored the words of the two people beside her and took out her wallet. Then she realized, no, I'm out of money. Well, since the money is gone, let's stop playing the small steel marbles here. Shizune saw that her wallet had no money left and said happily, it's about time to go to the hot spring. Shizune. Tsunade interrupted her. Hey, are you there? Shizune was startled. You left your suitcase at the hotel counter before. Tsunade said to her suddenly. Hey. Shizune was startled. You're not asking me to take that out, are you? Shizune was worried. That's all our property now. Hey, that. Ino listened and suddenly remembered that Shizune had indeed left a big box at the counter when she registered with the staff for the next day. TSK, I'm losing all the time now. I'm very angry. I won't just give up. Tsunade urged her in a bad mood. Don't be so long-winded. Go get it. Yes. Shizune hurriedly ran back to get the box with Tonton, leaving Ino there to accompany Tsunade. Really? Seeing Shizune go out to get something, she sat back in front of the game machine and waited. Just when Tsunade wanted to pull Ino to talk about other topics. Click, click. Hey, are you? At the other end of the store, a well-dressed middle-aged man accidentally passed by the front row of game machines and glanced at Tsunade and exclaimed softly. Tsunade looked at the person who came and subconsciously shouted, "Hey, you are. There is indeed a woman coming in." After Mingxian and the others all left the hot spring, Jiraiya was still soaking in the hot spring and finally waited for a new visitor. But, oh, young man, you are quite strong. An old lady with almost no teeth patted Jiraiya's back kindly. Not bad. That's right, young man. Do you have a partner now? Look at what you are asking. Do you want to introduce a partner to this young man? Jiraiya kept laughing and responding to the other two old ladies chatting with him, but he was crying in his heart. Actually, I still like younger and more beautiful ones. Click, click. This hot spring is really comfortable. Arkai shook his neck, creaking, and said comfortably, "It's just a hot spring. Is it that serious?" Mingxian walked side by side with him speechlessly. "Mingxian, where are you going next?" Shikamaru's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Mingxian turned around to look at Shikamaru and Choji, thought for a moment and said, "Well, I really don't have anything in mind. Now I'm too lazy to go out again. I'm afraid that if I go out for a walk, I will pick up someone when I come back." After saying that, he didn't forget to glance at someone. Arkai was very self-aware and shifted his gaze elsewhere. "Is that so? I don't want to go out anymore. I want to go back to the house and have a good rest." Shikamaru yawned and said, "Hey, it's not even night yet, and Shikamaru is already feeling sleepy. He's really used to being lazy." Mingxian shook his head silently in his heart and turned to look at Choji. "Choji, what about you?" Crunch, crunch. Choji had just finished his hot spring bath when he produced a bag of potato chips from nowhere and stuffed them into his mouth without stopping. "I want to go to the store in front of the store to buy some snacks and bring them back to the room to eat." "No way, you haven't eaten enough yet?" Shikamaru heard him say this and complained speechlessly. "Didn't we just eat outside?" "You misunderstood. I'm saving this for a midnight snack after dinner, Shikamaru." Choji explained to Shikamaru while chewing the potato chips. "TSK, you're really not afraid of becoming fat as a pig in the future?" Mingxian also echoed and complained about Choji silently in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud, lest he anger him and cause him to go berserk. "I'm really impressed by you. I'll go back to my room and take a nap," Shikamaru said, stretching his arms, and walked out from beside Choji and said, "You come back early later." "Okay, I see." Choji nodded. "I'll go with you too. I just need to go to the front desk to get another sheet for Arkai." Mingxian scratched his head and said to him, then turned to look at Arkai. "You go back to the room with Shikamaru first. I'll be there later." "Oh, okay." After Arkai finished speaking, he followed Shikamaru upstairs. Mingxian watched them both leave and said to Choji, "The foodie, let's go." "Okay." Choji answered him while eating potato chips. As the two walked through the atrium to the front desk, Mingxian looked up at the sky and thought of a certain white-haired wretched man. "Hey, how long will Jiraiya stay in the pool? He won't really wait until the girl." At the same time when Mingxian walked to the front desk, at the other end of the border, at this time, the intersection of the Land of Fire and the Land of Field, Orochimaru and Kabuto walked slowly and awkwardly on the road to the Hidden Sound Village. "Lord Orochimaru, how do you feel now?" Kabuto saw that his cheeks were sweating, so he stretched out his hand and tried to support him to walk slowly, but unexpectedly. "TSK, let go." Orochimaru did not appreciate it, but frowned and said coldly, "I'm not so weak that I need your support to walk." Chapter 290 Orochimaru's Points. Seeing that he misunderstood him, Kabuto tried to explain to him, "Lord Orochimaru, you misunderstood. You don't need to say anything. Let's go." Orochimaru rudely interrupted Kabuto, in a bad mood, and asked him directly, how far are we from the village now? Well, just walk up 10 kilometers or so, we should be there soon. Kabuto did not bother with Orochimaru's attitude, but diligently estimated the journey time. When we get home, I will change the medicine for your hand. Okay, I know. Orochimaru nodded coldly after hearing what Kabuto said. When he walked under a big tree, he suddenly looked up at the sky and muttered to himself, I didn't expect it. I thought Tsunade was just pretending at that time and couldn't control her trembling body. She was still the same as before, unable to escape the fate of being bound by blood phobia. Tsunade? Kabuto was stunned for a moment when he heard Orochimaru sighing for no reason. Then he pushed down his glasses and agreed with him. Yeah, no one would have thought that Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas, would completely overcome her hemophobia on her own because of Naruto. HMPH, Uzumaki Naruto. Orochimaru turned his head, his eyes turned deeply to a place behind him, and muttered to himself, I may not be so lucky next time. His tone was very cold. After all, I'm the one who can truly live forever. HMM. After he said this, Kabuto pondered for a long time before continuing to speak. Lord Orochimaru, Tsunade's route is definitely not feasible now, so what should we do next? He analyzed the current situation with a serious expression. It seems that, if I want to completely get rid of the restraint and burning of the third Hokage's forbidden technique. Orochimaru inhaled and closed his eyes, feeling the waves of burning heat on his arms. I can only use that method. That method? Kabuto was stunned at first, and then he quickly realized what he was referring to, and said in surprise, could it be that Lord Orochimaru, you want to? Yes. Orochimaru nodded very decisively this time. Hot sweat on his forehead was constantly oozing out of the skin and dripping down his cheeks. Now if I want to restore my hands and use ninjutsu normally again, the only way is to erode and occupy a new body. But, at this time, where can we go to find a match and find the perfect body material that is suitable for you, Lord Orochimaru? Kabuto asked him subconsciously. Hey, isn't there a ready-made perfect body in Konoha? Orochimaru's hands were clearly burned so badly that he was about to go crazy, but he could still show a weird smile to Kabuto. Kabuto, how have you compared and analyzed the data and information collected from him during the Chunin exams? Almost done. Seeing him ask about this, Kabuto was reluctant to say it, but he had to report the situation truthfully to the other party. If we continue according to our original plan and design, we can probably. What do you mean by estimate? I can't wait that long now. Orochimaru decisively interrupted and reminded Kabuto, plans cannot keep up with changes. You have to readjust the previous plans and designs. Okay, Lord Orochimaru. Well, after we return to Otogakure, let the 4 people rest and recuperate as soon as possible during this period. I plan to send them to sneak into Konoha to seduce Uchiha Sasuke. I understand. Kabuto nodded and wanted to say something, but when he saw Orochimaru mentioned Kidomaru and the others, he gave up and closed his mouth again. Well, what's wrong? Orochimaru was about to turn around and continue on his way, but he accidentally caught a glimpse of his action from the corner of his eye and asked Kabuto in confusion, Kabuto, do you have something to tell me? It's like this. Seeing that Orochimaru had asked, Kabuto didn't hesitate anymore, so he said directly, among the 4 people, Sakan and Jirobo are both okay. Although their injuries are quite serious, they are not impossible to recover. But Kidomaru and Teiwaya, there is absolutely no hope of them recovering to normal. Oh. Hearing this, Orochimaru was also very annoyed in his heart, but he didn't show it to Kabuto on the surface. Instead, he closed his eyes and asked him, is it because of that wooden fly? Well, I've tried many ways to deal with Kidomaru's 2 broken hands. Now the only thing I can be sure of is, he continued, looking through the glass lens, his broken wounds on both sides were cut with extremely exaggerated and cruel means, which made it impossible to reconnect his arms. He is completely scrapped. Kabuto told the truth, and the shocking trembling scar on Teiwaya's face, although I have tried my best to repair it many times, the wound caused by Itomention is too vicious and tricky to cure, so it will remain on her face. TSK. Orochimaru heard what Kabuto said and just said indifferently, "It doesn't matter if it can't be cured." That piece of wood fire was so vicious. He really deserves to be a defector from the Hidden Mist village. He is born cruel and brutal. He didn't care too much about the four people. Cruel and tyrannical? Kabuto felt very strange when he heard Orochimaru's evaluation of Mingshan. "Lord Orochimaru, you are he. Just wait and see, Kabuto." Orochimaru smiled meaningfully, shrugged his shoulders, and said to Kabuto, "Ito Mingshan's current actions will sooner or later cause a huge rift between him and Konoha." Rip? Kabuto was a little incredulous. "No way." Looking at him, "Lord Orochimaru, why do you judge like this? Although I haven't had much contact with this kid, I can see from the intelligence feedback I got from sending other people to sneak into Konoha during this period that he doesn't have a ninja faith that the old guy, the third Hokage, often mentioned. He is like a walking corpse, living a mediocre life in the village. He has powerful abilities, but doesn't know how to use them flexibly." When Orochimaru talked about him objectively at this moment, he didn't have the strong disgust he had in the past. Instead, he was a little teasing. "Don't forget, Danzo is still in the village. According to his previous temper, things that can't be used by him, it will be destroyed by Danzo himself." Kabuto naturally took over Orochimaru's words and blurted them out. "Yeah, that's right." Orochimaru nodded with a hint of approval. "I have a feeling that his good show will not be delayed for too long." "Oh." Kabuto just responded simply, not as seriously as Orochimaru did. Compared with Ito Mingshan, he actually cared more about Uchiha Sasuke in Konoha village. "Let's go." Orochimaru suddenly stopped discussing Ito, turned his gaze and said, "In a little while, it will be completely dark. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 291 Kidnapping. "Yeah, I understand." Kabuto nodded and walked side by side with Orochimaru, saying, "We'll go through later. Your luggage, this is it." A staff member standing at the front desk said to Shizune with a box in his hand. "Yes, it is this. Thank you." After Shizune confirmed that it was correct, she nodded and took the box from him. "Wow. Are you the follower who follows Tsunade-sama?" A staff member opened the door of the next room and walked out to ask Shizune. "Yes." Shizune replied in confusion. "What do you want to talk to me about?" "Oh, it's like this. We just received this letter and specifically asked you to pass it on to you." The staff member said, took out the letter and handed it to her. "Letter?" Shizune put down the box and took the letter casually. "Who sent it?" She unfolded the letter, read it hastily, and suddenly said in surprise, "Huh." Shizune stuffed the letter into her arms, picked up the box on the ground, and ran straight to the pachinko shop. "Lady Tsunade." As soon as she rushed back to the pachinko shop, she shouted as she entered the door, but found that both Tsunade and Ino were gone. Where did they go? After frowning for a moment, she brought Tunton out of the store, put it down, and said seriously, "Listen, Tunton, we must find Lady Tsunade back, understand?" She reached out and stroked its little head. "Please." Tunton tried to look up at Shizune, sniffed hard with its nose as if it understood, and then shook its head at her blankly. "Hey, I can't find her." Shizune was surprised and looked around. "Why is that?" After thinking about this special situation for a while, she suddenly thought of a possibility. She sniffed hard with her nose, turned around and looked over, and murmured, "So that's it. It's the sulfur smell in the hot spring here that's disturbing. In that case, we have to go outside to find her ourselves." Shizune said to Tunton, and soon she regained her spirits, raised her legs, and ran to another place, shouting everywhere at Tsunade-sama. Tunton also followed closely behind her, running around to look for her. "Tsunade-sama, where are you?" Shizune ran all the way, constantly shuttling through the alleys and shouting, "Something big has happened." "Tsunade-sama." "Hey, this voice is..." Mingshan, who was asking for something from the staff at the front desk, suddenly heard Shizune's shouting outside the store, and subconsciously glanced at the open door. "Sister Shizune?" He saw Shizune running over very quickly, shouting to the left and right while carrying a suitcase, and Tonton followed behind. What's going on? Mingshin, what are you looking at? Choji walked up to him and asked. Hey, nothing, just Shizune ran over. It seems to be looking for Tsunade. Mingshin turned his gaze back and said to him, well, here, Choji, you help me deliver the sheets to our room and give them to Achi. He handed the things in his hand to Choji. Choji took the sheets that Mingshin forced to pass to him unexpectedly and asked in astonishment, Mingshin, I'll go outside to see what happened. He hesitated for a moment. Tsunade is always causing trouble for Sister Shizune. Just like a toad, she is not easy to deal with. After Mingshin finished speaking, he sighed and left the front desk, chasing in the direction where Shizune ran. Is he the housekeeper here? Choji stared at him as he left and said this subconsciously. Then he wondered to himself, hey, why do I suddenly want to say this about tomorrow? Never mind, I'll take the sheets upstairs first. Choji shook his head hard, threw this inexplicable thought behind his mind, and went upstairs to take the sheets. This is bad. I can't find Tsunade-sama anywhere. What should I do? Shizune sat on a wooden bench on the street, talking to herself dejectedly, and she took out the letter from her arms. Sister Shizu. Shizu heard someone calling her from behind, and subconsciously turned her head to look, and couldn't help but say, Mingshin? Yeah, it's me. He put his hands on the back of his head, walked slowly to her, and asked, what's wrong with you? When Shizu heard him ask this, she sighed and handed him the thing in her hand. Take a look. Oh. Mingshin put down his hands in confusion, took the letter, unfolded it and read, Uzumaki Naruto is in our hands. If you want him to go back safely, pay off all the debts. As he read, his eyebrows raised subconsciously, and he muttered in his heart, what the hell is Naruto doing? Will he be caught by a few thieves? We'll wait for you under the 3 cedar trees in the back mountain. Mingshin opened and closed his mouth, and his expression was very strange. When he finished reading, Akaji family? He looked at the 2 words borrowing money in the letter, and specially used a brush to draw a red swirl mark. Yes, it was this group of people who took Naruto away. Shizu nodded at him and said worriedly, Mingshin, what should we do now? We must go and save Naruto. Why do we have to save that guy? Mingshin asked her calmly, after reading the letter. Shizune was a little dumbfounded by his words. That's because you are worried that Tsunade has a high loan. If it is accidentally exposed, it will directly affect her succession to the 5th generation Hokage, Sister Shizune. Mingshin pointed out the reason very simply and clearly. Hiss. After hearing this, Shizune was really shocked, and goosebumps suddenly appeared under her skin all over her body. Mingshin, you. Well, I know her. It's not just a day or two. Mingshin didn't care about her reaction. He picked his ears and said to Shizune calmly, I still know what kind of character she is. Shizune was very embarrassed to hear him say such unpleasant words and couldn't respond to Mingshin's words. However, tomorrow, we will try to rescue him. Changing the subject, no matter what, we have to solve this matter. Mingshin could only smile bitterly when she heard her say that. Sister Shizune, if you insist on saving that guy, let's not talk about what Mingshin and Shizune are conspiring to discuss at this moment. At the same time, in the back mountain of the hot spring street. Hey, will things go so smoothly? No problem. The yellow-haired man who was tied to the cedar tree said this confidently to Wenzao and others. But what if they don't come, Naruto? Wenzao saw that he made such a promise, but he was still a little worried and asked Naruto again. Humph, although I always like to argue with Grandma Tsunade, you can rest assured that she will definitely come to save people as promised. Naruto said to him calmly and easily. Chapter 292 Seeing Through at a Glance. I hope so. Standing silently at the side, Zenta looked into the distance without optimism, muttering to himself, hey, I don't know when she will. Just when the 3 of them had been waiting for almost half an hour, they finally saw Tsunade, who had come late for the appointment, in Naruto and their sight. Here she is. Zenta suddenly reminded Naruto and Bunzo who were chatting. Look. Hey, is she coming? Upon hearing this, the two turned their eyes and looked into the distance and found that the person who came was indeed Tsunade, who was walking slowly towards them. Grandma Tsunade, stop. Huang Meo and Bunzo sang in unison and played a double act in tacit understanding. You should know who we are, right? Bunzo questioned her aggressively. I know, you are the younger brothers of the Akagi family, right? Tsunade answered the other party quite calmly. HMPH, that's easy to say. When Zeo stretched out his hand to her, please pay off all the money you owed me, including the principal and interest. Otherwise, this guy will die. With a choke, Zenta fiercely pulled out the sword from his waist and put it on the neck of the yellow-haired man, threatening Tsunade. Save me quickly, Tsunade-san. The yellow-haired man looked down and saw that there was a cold blade flashing on his neck. He was very scared and asked Tsunade for help helplessly, but unexpectedly. Oh, is that so? After listening to the threats of the two brothers, Tsunade actually raised her little finger indifferently, looking at the three people with dead eyes. Actually, even if that guy loses his life, it doesn't matter to me. You guys do it. As she said that, she picked her nose without any ladylike image. Hearing Tsunade's words, the yellow-haired man and Zenta were all dumbfounded. What did you say? The yellow-haired man roared angrily. Then, what about the money you owed before? Zenta's tone became very uncertain, and he asked her carefully. Tsunade looked at her with contempt, and the meaning couldn't be more obvious. No way. Seeing her like this, the yellow-haired man and Zenta were all confused by Tsunade. Didn't you hear clearly? Tsunade yawned and said to them in a flat tone, that guy's life doesn't matter to me at all. If you want to do it, hurry up. Her expression seemed to be in a hurry, urging the other party. Oh, by the way, after you kill this guy, cut him into pieces and feed him to the fish, which can also help protect the ecological environment. Zenta and Bunzo were at a loss after hearing her cruel and palpitating words, and looked at each other. You stinky old woman. The yellow-haired man hated that he met the wrong person. Well, I'm kidding. If it were before, I might say so. Tsunade closed her eyes and said to him softly, HMM. The yellow-haired man was a little stunned when he heard her words. After I take over as Hokage, this guy will be considered my lovely subordinate. I can't just stand by and watch him die. Grandma Tsunade. Hearing her words, the yellow-haired man was deeply moved. This is all the money I have on hand now. Tsunade took out a wallet from her sleeve. Take it. Whoosh. Ta-ta. Tsunade threw the wallet out and it soon fell directly in front of their feet. Let me check it. When Zeo walked forward a few steps and picked up the wallet on the ground. As soon as he opened it and counted it, HMM. This is? He found something wrong. Although I can't pay off the debt in full, it should be enough to use this to pay the interest first. Tsunade said to Wenzeo with her hands on her hips. TSK. Wenzeo didn't speak immediately after hearing her words, but threw the wallet into the air. Hey. He waved his hand and cut the wallet in half with a knife. Bang. White smoke gushed out, and when it dissipated, they suddenly realized that it was made of dead leaves. Hey, it's fake. The yellow-haired man was shocked. Swish, swish. As soon as he finished speaking, Tsunade didn't care about the hostages at all and rushed forward quickly. What? Seeing her running towards them very quickly, without caring about the yellow-haired man's safety, Zenta and Bunzo subconsciously shouted, hey, is Naruto still? Questions and answers are useless. Tsunade turned a deaf ear and raised her hand to attack fiercely. Boom, boom, boom. Ah. Ouch. Amid Zenta and Bunzo's miserable screams, the two were quickly defeated by Tsunade. Bang, bang. The moment they fell to the ground, they quickly turned into two white smoke and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Oh, just as I expected, they are all your clones. Tsunade shook her neck and looked at him with contempt. Hey, the tone of her voice. The yellow-haired man had a bad feeling in his heart and looked at Tsunade in doubt and asked, are you? Yes. Bang. A burst of white smoke swayed past, and the yellow-haired man looked closely, and it turned out to be Tomorrow. Hey, why is it you? When he saw it was him, the yellow-haired man felt unwell. You kid actually teamed up with the Akagi family to trick Tsunade. Mingshan crossed his arms and looked at him and complained, I thought I was black-bellied enough, but I didn't expect that you are more black-hearted than me. Huang Mao heard him say that, and he felt bad all over, and yelled at him unconvinced, damn, how did you know we would design it? Hey, this doesn't even require thinking. Is it difficult to guess? Mingshan looked at Naruto in surprise, and said with a teasing, it's only because Sister Shizune would try any possible means without calming down and thinking carefully. How could a single-celled organism, like you be so easily caught by others? Humph. Huang Mao gritted his teeth, and said to Mingshan, in this case, even if I force it, I will make Grandma Tsunade pay back the money obediently. Bang. After he finished speaking, he quickly turned into a puff of white smoke, and disappeared from the tied cedar tree. Haha. Mingshan silently watched him disappear from under his nose, but he was not surprised at all. Instead, he turned his eyes to a certain place with interest, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. Sure enough, I knew that she would not pay you back so easily. In a grassy forest far away from the 3 fir trees, Huang Mao and Shantae were secretly observing the situation over there. Seeing that his plan failed, he couldn't help but curl his lips and said to the two of them, but I didn't expect that Mingshan would actually help the old woman. This is troublesome. He is not easy to deal with. What should we do now? Shantae asked Huang Mao anxiously. Chapter 293 Wallet. Don't worry. The yellow-haired man said to them confidently, I tell you, actually, Grandma Tsunade has there is a super big box, which I estimate, contains a lot of gold bars. As long as we can steal that box, we don't have to worry about not being able to get back the debts she owed before. Yes, yes. Hearing this, the yellow-haired man nodded happily in agreement, and casually agreed, this has something to do with me. He was about to continue to agree with the other party, but he was suddenly startled. Shantae and the other two mechanically raised their eyes, and looked up at the source of the sound, and couldn't help but exclaimed in unison, why is it you? Why, are you surprised to see me, Naruto? As he said, he didn't forget to grin at the yellow-haired man. Standing behind them at this moment were Mingshan and Shizune. When Zao hurriedly turned his head to look at the 3 cedar trees again, the one standing there just now was, bang, Mingshan, who was there, also disappeared into the sky and earth in a blink of an eye with a puff of white smoke. We were deceived. He was also using clones. Naruto complained to Mingshan in frustration. How did you find out we were hiding here? TSK, you're asking a nonsense question. Mingshan, holding a suitcase, shook his head and looked at him with contempt. Just the little tricks you usually use. I can think of them by just using my toes. Damn, you actually look down on me like this. The yellow-haired man was furious when he heard this and was ridiculed so much that he wanted to rush up to fight Mingshan, but was stopped by Zenta and Bunzo. Hey, what are you doing? Let me go. He was still trying to break free and grab the box in Mingshan's hand. Hey, calm down first. If you rush over like this, you will definitely not be able to grab the box. Shantae and Wenzao tried their best to persuade him. Since Mingshan could stand here with Shizune without any scruples, it meant that they must have come prepared. If he rushed to grab it now, wouldn't he be stupid? Alas, you are still the same. Mingshan was quite helpless about his performance. He always felt that he was disappointed with him. Why can't you use your brain more in everything? Really, is it so difficult for you to be less stupid? Humph, who are you talking about being stupid? Hearing him scolding him like this, Huang Mao immediately became more clamorous. Mingshan saw this and was too lazy to deal with this guy. He went over and ignored Huang Mao. He opened the box in front of Shantae, Wenzao and others. Hey, Mingshan, what are you doing? Shizune beside him was about to get angry and persuade him to stop when she saw him suddenly raise the box in his hand. Sister Shizune, please be patient, Mingshan said, and turned his eyes away, shook his head at her, indicating that she should not be too anxious, and then turned back and threw the wallet in the box to Zenta and Wenzao. Here, catch it, this is a real wallet. Hey. Zenta and Wenzao, as well as Huang Mao, were all confused by Mingshan's operation and didn't understand what he was doing. Mingshan, why did you give them the wallet without permission? There is Tsunade-sama in it. Seeing the real wallet fall into the hands of the other party, Shizune didn't care about being polite and said to him anxiously, wanting to complain. Don't worry. Mingshin's face, although he didn't look at Shizune, but he calmly assured her and said to Naruto and the other two, you can open it now. Oh. Huang Meo and Zenta looked at each other in doubt and thought to themselves, what the hell is he doing? However, despite their doubts, they still opened the wallet as he said. Hey, what is this? Zenta took out the bills from the wallet, looked closely, and couldn't help but read them out loud. Principal, 16,000. Hey, 16,000? The yellow-haired man was stunned when he heard Zenta read this, and he quickly leaned over to take a look and said in surprise, hey, borrowing books. Zenta looked at these bills and couldn't help but read them out loud. This one says the principal is 38,000. Turning over the next one, and this one says the principal is 25,000. As for the sharp-eyed Wenzhao, he stretched out his hand and pointed. Look, there is another one. It says the principal is 89,000. Hiss. Before the three of them finished reading, they took a breath of cold air and looked at Mingshin in astonishment. These are all? Yes, these are all Tsunade's past IOUs. He smiled and nodded. There is no money in the box? The yellow-haired man was confused. Yes, that guy didn't save much money in the box. Mingshin admitted generously and said, but there is only one thing I want to remind you. What? Zenta and Wenzhao looked at each other and then looked at him again. What do you want to remind us? Among these IOUs, there is no bill from your Akagi family. Mingshin pointed out. If you don't believe me, look carefully again. Hearing this, several people were very surprised. Even Shizune, who had been watching, was no exception. Zenta and the others, together with Naruto, half believing and half doubting, looked through all the bills and found that it was just as Mingshin said. Among these IOUs, there was no bill for the Akagi family's debt. What's going on? Wenzhao stopped looking and asked Mingshin in confusion. Yes. After Shizune came forward to check, she also echoed the other party and asked Mingshin together. It's very simple. There are only two explanations for this. Mingshin raised two fingers towards the people opposite him. The first possibility is that Tsunade burned the debt bills herself. That's impossible. Before Mingshin finished speaking, Shizune retorted fiercely, although Lady Tsunade often owes others' debts, she never burns the IOU she signed with others. Hey, why do you say this, as if you are so proud? Mingshin looked at her standing there and making plausible excuses. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, but said on the surface, since Sister Shizune said so, there is only the second possibility. He retracted his hand and walked to Zenta and the other person. He naturally took back the IOU and wallet and rearranged them. Tsunade paid off the money she owed to the Akagi family a long time ago. The four people heard such a shocking answer, and they said in unison again, paid it off a long time ago. That's right. Mingshin nodded, looking at them with a teachable look. That's impossible. Before Zenta and the others could speak, Shizune asked first. I've always been by Tsunade-sama's side. She patted her chest and said to him, I know best whether she has paid back the money or not. Chapter 294 Reasoning. Even if you can follow Sister Shizune all day, there will still be times when we are not together, right? Mingshin did not agree with her words and said with a smile, like that time when you and Tsunade met me in the Kingdom of the Moon. After he said that, Shizune was really embarrassed to defend herself. That time, they were indeed separated for a long time because they had to avoid debt collectors. Even if there is no IOU from the Akagi family in the wallet, it does not prove that Grandma Tsunade has returned the money to the other party. The yellow-haired man still tried to argue with him. Naruto, what you said makes some sense. Bunzo and Zenta echoed his opinion, because if there was a return, it is impossible for them all to have not received any news. In fact, whether Tsunade has returned the money to the Akagi family, it is fastest to ask her directly, isn't it? Mingshin said a little more curt to everyone. Yeah, that's right. Zenta and Bunzo nodded after hearing it. Okay, then let's go back to Grandma Tsunade and confront her. The yellow-haired man said in a teasing manner, urging everyone. That might be a little difficult. Shizune suddenly said. Hey, why is that? The yellow-haired man and Zenta turned their eyes to Shizune, very confused. Because as soon as I received your letter, I hurried back to the pachinko shop to discuss with Tsunade-sama, but found that she had already left the shop. She said awkwardly, so now where she is, even I don't know. Hey, don't we still have Tunten to track the scent of Tsunade-sama? The yellow-haired man asked her. No. Shizune smiled bitterly and shook her head. Tunten's nose is disturbed by the sulfur smell in the hot springs here, and it can no longer normally identify and find Tsunade-sama. Hey, how could this be? He was very disappointed. Okay, don't talk so much nonsense. Mingshin elbowed the yellow-haired man. I roughly know where she will go. Huh. Shizune and the others instinctively looked up when they heard Mingshin's words. When Zeo took the initiative to ask him, do you know where she will be? Yeah. He just nodded. You said you knew where Lady Tsunade would appear, right? Shizune was a little bit unbelievable. I remember that once we entered the guest house and registered, we went back to our respective rooms. How could you? You will find the answer if you follow me to the hot spring street. Mingshin smiled mysteriously, but did not reveal it immediately, but left it in suspense. Everyone's minds were hung up by him at this moment, and they subconsciously took a step and followed him back to the hot spring street. Mingshin and Zenta and the others walked in silence, walking quickly, and in the blink of an eye they arrived at the door of a store located on the outskirts of the streets on both sides. Hey. The yellow-haired man raised his head and squinted his eyes. Fuku, Meru, Hall. He carefully read the name of the plaque above, turned his gaze back, and asked Mingshin, hey, why did you bring us here? Tsunade should be here, Mingshin said with confidence, folding his arms, and even pursed his mouth, to signal them to look over. Huh, Grandma Tsunade is here? The yellow-haired man didn't believe what he said. No way, have we found the person? Zenta asked him subconsciously. Is it true? When Zeo, who was standing behind the yellow-haired man, also felt a little unbelievable because they had just arrived at the outer edges of both sides of the hot spring street, and he didn't even see him scanning to identify the place, but he turned around and said that he had found the target. Why would I lie to you? Mingshin shrugged and gestured to the others. Why don't we go in and ask? Fukumaru-kan. When they were talking nonsense to Mingshin, only Shizune didn't speak, thinking, indeed, Tsunade-sama might spend money here, but how did Mingshin guess it? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look up and stare at his back and think carefully. Wow. As Naruto and Zenta and the others opened the door of the store and walked in. Welcome, may I ask how many people are here? Before the receptionist standing at the front desk finished speaking, Zenta and Bunzo walked a few steps quickly, came to the other side, and asked politely, excuse me, has a guy named Tsunade been here before? Tsunade? The staff member was stunned at first, and after thinking for a while, he looked up and said to the few people, yes, there is a person named Tsunade, upstairs. Hey, is she really here? After hearing what the staff said, they were all surprised and turned their heads back to look at Mingshin. Damn it. Naruto curled his lips. Although he had already found the person, he still said to Mingshin with special disdain, TSK, what's the big deal? The guy put his hands on the pillow, and his expression was full of indifference. Alas, there's no hope for this guy. Mingshin shook his head helplessly, silently complaining about the yellow-haired man in his heart, but said, Zenta, when Zeo, go find her quickly before she leaves. Oh, okay. Although they were surprised, the two came to their senses immediately when they heard Mingshin's suggestion. After asking the staff about the situation, they asked him to lead the way, and went straight to the second floor to find someone. Hey, wait for me. The yellow-haired man saw the two running away, so he subconsciously hurried up. Dang. After the few people left, Mingshin, he shifted his gaze from the two brothers Zenta to Shizune, who had been standing still, and asked, what's wrong Shizune sister? How did you guess that Tsunade-sama would be here? She couldn't help but ask Mingshin what she was holding back. It's very simple. When we first came here, Mingshin spoke slowly, I noticed that Tsunade's eyes were constantly looking around for two places. Two places? She said it out loud. Gambling and taverns. Mingshin did not keep the secret. Huh. Shizune was shocked after hearing this. Tsunade-sama. It seems that she was looking at something randomly at that time. I thought her eyes were uncomfortable. When she saw the signs with the word wine on both sides of the street, her eyes stayed for about 1 minute and 16 seconds. He gradually advanced his analysis of Tsunade's situation. And when she saw the pachinko shop, her breathing became 23% heavier. So, I can judge from this, that she will definitely go directly to drink after playing gambling. I see. Then how did you know that Tsunade-sama would definitely go to Fukumarukan to drink? Shizune asked immediately. Oh, you are talking about this. Mingshin scratched his head and smiled calmly. That's because I'm just guessing. Chapter 295. Meeting Jiro again. Shizune's brain froze for a moment, and she didn't even know when Tantan fell to the ground. Are you blind? Guessing? Well, there are only a few places to drink in the hot spring street. Even if that damn old woman didn't drink in Fukumarukan, she would only drink in other bars. Mingshin revealed his true colors. I just want to fool Naruto. Besides, finding her is actually a very easy thing. It won't be that difficult. Seeing the other party talking so leisurely, Shizune was actually speechless and depressed at this moment. Mingshin had made so many profound preparations before, but the result was, Sister Shizune? Seeing that she was in a daze and not listening, Mingshin called her softly and waved his hand in front of her. I'm fine. Before Mingshan could continue to shout, she smiled bitterly and said to him, let's go up to and see how Lady Tsunade explains it. As she said that, she hugged Tantan back into her arms. Oh. Although he thought she was a little strange, he didn't think much about it. After they finished talking, they followed the yellow-haired man in front and went upstairs to look for someone. After a while, they quickly found the destination of this trip. We are here, guests. When the staff led the people to the door of a room, they talked to the two people standing at the door for a few words, then turned to them and said, they are drinking here. Okay, sorry to bother you. Seeing the place, Mingshan took the initiative to thank the person who brought them. No, don't be so polite. The staff stopped. I have something to deal with next, so I'll go and get busy first. After saying that, he walked away without waiting for the other party to answer. Then, next, Mingshan watched the staff leave, and just as he was about to reach out to pull, Naruto was faster than him. Crash. After opening the door, the yellow-haired man saw Tsunade talking and laughing with a middle-aged man, and he was furious. Grandma Tsunade. Tsunade had her back to the door, and felt very strange after hearing the voice. Is this Naruto's voice? She turned her head, and saw the people behind her, and was stunned. Hey, why are you also Lady Tsunade? Shizune walked out quickly from behind Zenta and Bunzo, came to her and reproached, really, why did you and Ino run away from the pachinko without permission, making me look for you on the street for a long time? Oh, didn't I meet an old friend? She heard Shizune say that, and said something embarrassedly, pointing at the person sitting over there. Really, Tsunade, you really run away when you get tired of playing? This voice, are you Mingshin? Mingshin was about to walk out from behind the crowd, shaking his head and scolding him, but he was shocked by this familiar and deep voice. This voice, could it be that you are? He hurried to the table for the two of them, raised his eyes to look at each other, and subconsciously smiled happily and said, Master Jiro, it's really you. Mingshin, long time no see. Master Jiro sat opposite him, looking at him with a gentle smile. Mingshin bowed and nodded in front of him very stiffly, just like when he was still working in the Tea Kingdom. Master Jiro, long time no see. TSK, why do I see you everywhere? Before Master Jiro could speak, Tsunade saw Mingshin also came up with Naruto and the others, and said unhappily, what's wrong with you, Tsunade? Jironaga saw that Tsunade pulled a long face when she saw Mingshin, and he was quite curious. Do you have any grudge against this guy? Not really. Tsunade did not tell the truth to Jironaga, but drank another cup by herself. I just simply don't like this guy. Jironaga was amused by her words, and murmured to himself, how did Mingshin offend you, Tsunade? Hey, boss, don't listen to her nonsense. Mingshin saw that Tsunade was so disrespectful and wanted to beat her to death. so he quickly defended himself. Actually, it's just that she and I had a bad relationship. Huh, bad relationship? Zenta and Bunzo, who were standing behind him, were stunned, and they looked at each other, and looked at them from front to back, with that look. Hey, kid, what are you talking about? When Tsunade heard this, she immediately got angry and hurriedly clarified, who has a bad relationship with you? The yellow-haired man was also stunned when he heard Mingshin say this. Mingshin, when did you and Grandma Tsunade? Cough. Seeing that everyone was about to talk more and more outrageous, Tsunade quickly coughed loudly and changed the subject. Naruto, how did you find this place? Well, yeah, I almost forgot about the important thing when you mentioned it. Naruto was halfway through his words when he saw Tsunade talking about this, so he put aside his doubts and asked her, Grandma Tsunade, you should return the money to them as soon as possible. Pointing at Zenta and Fumizeo. Tsunade looked up at the two brothers when she heard him say that. Who are you? My name is Zenta. My name is Bunzo. We are the younger brothers from the Akagi family. Akagi family? Tsunade muttered to herself after listening to their introduction, and soon remembered. Oh, could it be that you are? Yes. Seeing that she seemed to remember what was going on, Bunzo quickly took out the long wrinkled receipt from his arms and presented it to Tsunade very respectfully. This is the original. TSK. This method. Mingshin saw that he was so efficient and accommodating to others and felt that he was much more civilized than the debt collectors he had seen in his previous life. Tsunade said unexpectedly after carefully looking at the receipt he handed over. Hey, I remember that the money owed to your Akagi family was paid off a year ago. Hey, except for Mingshin and Jirocho. Everyone present exclaimed in surprise. Things turned out to be like this. While muttering, Shizune couldn't help but look at Mingshin. He actually really predicted it. It was last year when we passed by Akagi. Have you forgotten, Shizune? Tsunade asked her assistant speechlessly. It was you who reminded me at that time. Yeah, it seems to be the case. Shizune was reminded by her and scratched her head embarrassedly and said to everyone, I'm sorry, everyone. I forgot because I was anxious. Hey, Shizune sister, you can even forget about this? Chapter 296 Good Relationship. No way. After listening to Shizune's explanation, Jiro, who was sitting opposite them, suddenly waved to his younger brother standing beside him. He nodded in understanding and took out a letter from his arms. Here is a letter from the Akagi family. Jiro took the letter in his hand, spread it out, and read. I will only read the part that he asked to write to you two brothers. Oh, okay. The two nodded. Zenta, Bunzo, Tsunade's debt has been paid. You should also return soon. Jiro read it quickly. That's all. Akagi Hidegoro. After the statement, he handed the letter to his subordinates. After listening to everything, Zenta, Huangmeo and Bunzo felt very bad. It turned out that they had spent a lot of time and effort, but it was all in vain. Well, that's how it is. Mingshin used his little finger to pick his ear, showing no sympathy, and said venomously, why are you following this naughty kid around? It's really annoying. Damn it, I'll fight you. When the yellow-haired man heard that he was so happy to provoke him, he jumped up without thinking and pretended to fight Mingshin, but was stopped in time by Zenta and Bunzo, who looked depressed. Hey, Naruto, don't be impulsive. Yes, although we worked in vain, at least the matter has been resolved. After the two brothers' earnest persuasion, it took a long time to calm his emotions. Because of the presence of the elder Jiro, Zenta and Bunzo were afraid that this guy would cause trouble again, and it would be very embarrassing if everyone couldn't get off the stage. The two looked at each other and decisively carried this guy out on the left and right, and quickly pulled him out of the room to calm down, so that he would not continue to make trouble. Hey, this guy finally left. Mingshin shook his head and sighed. It was so noisy. Humph, it's because you've been making trouble and deliberately provoking others. Tsunade looked down on him with disdain. Hey, can you blame me for this? Mingshin pouted and pointed at himself. It seems that I helped you resolve a debt crisis just now. It's okay if you don't say thank you, but you're still arguing. Oh, did I ask you to help? Tsunade interrupted him unceremoniously. Let's make it clear first. It's you who wanted to throw yourself in and get involved. Hey, I say you. Okay, Mingshin, Tsunade-sama, both of you should say less. Mr. Jirocho is still here. Shizune couldn't stand it anymore and quickly reminded them to stop talking nonsense. It was embarrassing. The two were stunned when they heard it. After being reminded by Shizune in such a tactful way, they immediately felt that they had indeed gone too far. It was too embarrassing and ridiculous to make such a fuss in front of other people. What's wrong with me? Whenever I talk to this guy, I can't help but want to argue with him. Tsunade felt that she must have drunk too much recently, and her mind was confused. She subconsciously looked at the other side with a depressed look, but unexpectedly, she was stunned and found that the other party also turned his eyes to this side. What are you doing? I didn't do anything. Then why are you looking at me? Hey, what are you looking at? I'm also looking at the same thing. Hey, you are such a person. Tsunade heard his speechless sophistry and was so angry that she wanted to argue with this boy again. Haha, okay, Tsunade, tomorrow. Jiro Elder suddenly interrupted Tsunade and Tomorrow's conversation at the right time and said to the two of them teasingly, you two have a really good relationship. No, only she has a good relationship with her. No, only he has a good relationship with him. When the two heard Jiro Elder say this, they immediately got angry and loudly refuted and argued. After the two finished speaking at the same time, they immediately regretted it at the same time. They looked at each other subconsciously, then turned their heads and shifted their sights. TSK, why should I do this? Tsunade was annoyed and felt that she was in the same space with this boy. Even if she didn't do anything, she would feel particularly aggrieved. In order to ease the atmosphere, Mingshin's eyes drifted around and suddenly came back to his senses and realized something and said, where is Ino? Why don't I seem to have seen her since I came in just now? Hey, that's right. Shizune also spoke appropriately to liven up the atmosphere in the room and said, Tsunade-sama, where is Ino? Hey, Ino. Tsunade put away her thoughts and said to the two of them, I asked her to go out to buy some things and she will be back soon. Oh, what did you ask her to buy? Mingshin asked her. Is it your business? Tsunade rolled her eyes at him disdainfully. Mingshin was embarrassed, thinking that he was indeed meddling too much. He turned to look at the eldest brother Jiro and started chatting with him again. Boss, can you stay in the land of fire for a few more days this time? I'm afraid not. Jiro shook his head and explained, I came to the land of fire this time to discuss business with someone in Tansho Street. After I'm done, I'll go directly to the pier to take a boat back to the land of tea. You're in such a hurry, boss. Mingshin felt a little sorry. I finally met you here. Haha, it's okay. The boss comforted him. Didn't you write to me some time ago, saying that you really wanted to come back to the land of tea and bring people over to play? Jiro smiled and said, then we will meet again at the shrine event. Some time ago. Mingshin heard him suddenly mention this, and subconsciously, he thought of a white-haired figure. While he was lost in thought, he thought sadly in his heart, yes, I haven't told the boss about Kimimaro yet. How should I tell him this? Well, tomorrow? Jiro-chan waited for a while, and seeing that he had not spoken a word, but was just standing there motionless, he felt very strange, and tried to call a few more times. Tomorrow, tomorrow? He moved his eyes first, and then responded with a no, retracted his thousands of thoughts, apologized to him, and said, sorry, boss, I was thinking about something just now, and I didn't pay attention for a moment. It's okay. Jiro-chan shook his head, not caring about such a small matter, and then said, tomorrow, will Kimimaro come with you? Kimimaro? Tsunade and Shizune were obviously stunned after hearing this name, and instinctively followed and muttered aloud, but soon, their eyes became a little dim like tomorrow. Hey, what are you doing? Jiro-chan thought Tsunade and the others were also like this, and felt that everyone was very strange, so he asked with concern, what's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly silent? Actually, Shizune looked up at Jiro-chan, and wanted to say something. Chapter 297 Silent Tsunade. Sister Shizune, let me tell you. Mingshin suddenly smiled and interrupted her, saying calmly, boss, Kimimaro passed away. What? Jirocho felt incredible when he heard him say that and asked, what did you just say? He died. Mingshan closed his eyes and sighed. That was. He told Jirocho everything about the 3 members of Team 9 going to take the Chunin exam together and all the things that happened afterwards. After a long time passed, Jiro-chan quietly raised his head and sighed. I didn't expect that the child would leave in this way. It's really unpredictable. Well, boss, don't take it too seriously. Mingshan looked calmly and smiled slightly, comforting him. It's all in the past. Morning. After a while, I plan to finish all the things at hand, and then I will go to Konoha village to pay homage to him. Jiro-chan looked at Mingshan earnestly. You should feel the worst. After all, No, boss, you have so many complicated affairs. Mingshan didn't let him finish his words and shook his head. Really no need. We came all the way from the Kamo port to Konoha to pay homage to him. We are fine now, boss. He stood up with gratitude and bowed slightly to Jiro-chan. I believe that if Kimimaro were still alive, he would say the same to you. Tomorrow. Jiro-chan looked up and saw that he had said so much, so he didn't insist anymore. Tsunade listened to their conversation in silence, looking at Mingshan with complicated eyes. Although the two had not mentioned anything about Kimimaro since they met, it did not mean that she had completely let it go. After all, at that time, if Shizune. Just when they were silent, Tsunade suddenly called out to Shizune. What's wrong, Lady Tsunade? Shizune turned to look at her in surprise. Ino has been out for so long. Tut, she hasn't come back yet. Tsunade picked up the wine glass on the table, tilted her head back, and drank a sip. Let's go out and look for her. Huh. Shizune was a little confused. Did you ask her to buy something important? As for specially? Hey, don't say that. Get up and follow me. Tsunade interrupted her and stood up to signal her to keep up. Hey, please walk slower. Tsunade-sama, wait for me. Shizune saw that she turned around and left after saying goodbye to Jirocho, so she hurriedly got up and caught up with her. Hey, Tsunade is leaving now. Jirocho felt it was a pity, shook his head, and said to himself, I wanted to talk to her more when we met. It's okay, boss. When she returns to the village to succeed as the 5th generation Hokage of Konoha village, you will have plenty of opportunities to exchange letters. Mingshan knew very well why she was looking for an excuse to leave, and he didn't intend to tell the boss. Although Mingshan had always felt great regret for not being able to successfully save Kimimaro, he never resented Tsunade from beginning to end, because at that time, too many unexpected situations happened at the same time, and no one could guarantee that they could be easily resolved if they encountered them. You are right. Jirocho nodded, and he continued to chat with Mingshan for a while. After learning about the various things that had happened in Konoha recently, he also got up and left Fukumaru Hall. I'm going back, Mingshan. Several people walked out of the store together, and Jiro took the initiative to say goodbye to Mingshan. Yes, boss. Mingshan hadn't seen Jiro for several years, but he still looked at Jiro with the same respect as before. When you have time, come back to the Tea Kingdom. I welcome you anytime. Jiro smiled at him. Okay, I will definitely go back, boss. Mingshan nodded solemnly to him. After saying goodbye to each other, the two left. Jiro led his younger brother to turn around and walk in the opposite direction of Mingshan, but he quietly watched the boss leave before slowly turning back to go home. Mingshan didn't know why he suddenly felt very sad, as if it would be very difficult for him to see the boss again in the future. After shaking his head hard, he suddenly laughed and said to himself, what's wrong with me? I just said goodbye to the boss, and I'm thinking about these messy things. Let's go back to the BNB. After thinking about it, he immediately quickened his pace. After a while, Mingshan returned to the BNB. Wow. He just stretched out his hand and opened the door, and what came into view was the backs of Tsunade and the yellow-haired people. Hey, Mingshan, you are back too. Ino took the initiative to greet him after seeing the person coming. Yeah. Mingshan simply responded to her. Ino, where have you been? You made others wait so long to buy something. Hey, how did you know I went out to buy something? Ino asked him in surprise. When I went to Fukumarukan with Sister Shizune and others, I found that you were not with Tsunade," he said, looking at Tsunade who was changing shoes. "The things that Lady Tsunade asked me to purchase are hard to find." Ino picked up the plastic bag in her hand and showed it to Mingshin. "I searched for a long time on the street before I finally found the things that Lady Tsunade specified to buy. When I just walked back to the Fukumarukan store, the door was open from the inside." His gaze turned to Tsunade and the others. "Then, it was a scene you see now. Hey, are you checking the household registration, Mingshin?" The yellow-haired man suddenly pouted and interrupted. "You ask so many questions." "Oh, Naruto." Mingshin was speechless when he saw that the boy was still thinking about his ridicule just now. He changed the subject and asked this guy, "Why didn't I see Zenta and Bunzo?" "Oh, don't mention them, they left a long time ago," the yellow-haired man said in a muffled voice. "They carried me out directly and brought me back to the B&B. Not long after, they said they had to go find that elder Jiro to thank him and inform him of the situation, and then left the hotel." "Oh, so that's it." Mingshin suddenly realized, well, I guess the two brothers are probably still staying at the boss's place right now. Humph, I'm going back to my room to rest. Naruto turned around with his hands on the pillow. "Hey, it's almost time for dinner," Mingshin reminded him. "I'm not hungry." The yellow-haired man left only these words and walked away. "You're really a child who never grows up." Mingshin was speechless to him. Tap, tap. Tsunade was surprisingly quiet at this moment. She just changed her shoes by herself and went to the second floor. "Hey, Lady Tsunade?" Shizune looked at her from behind and shouted, "It's almost time for dinner." But the other party didn't reply. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Tragedy of Jiraiya. "Forget it, Sister Shizune." Mingshin stopped her and changed her shoes. "Let her go upstairs and stay alone for a while. You and Ino go eat first. I'll take the others there later." "Okay." Seeing Mingshin said so, Shizune took Ino away to eat first. She thought that if Tsunade didn't come down to eat later, she would pack a portion for her. "I'm going back to my room too," Mingshin said as she passed by Shizune and Ino. "See you later, Sister Shizune." "Ino." "Okay." Shizune watched Mingshin go upstairs and turned to ask Ino, "Do you want to go upstairs too?" "No, let's go over there, Sister Shizune." Ino shook her head. Her stomach was rumbling slightly. It was obviously because she was hungry after running errands for Tsunade for a long time. "Okay." Shizune nodded and went to the dining place with Ino to eat first. But as they were walking, Tantan suddenly made a noise in her arms, as if reminding her of something. "Hey, we seem to have forgotten something." After hearing Tantan's call, Shizune was stunned on the spot, trying hard to recall whether she had forgotten anything. "Well, no." Mingshin and Naruto went upstairs. "Who else hasn't come back?" Ino asked her curiously. "Yeah, it seems that nothing has come back." Shizune shook her head. "Haha, why have I become like Mingshin? So suspicious. Hey, anyone who stays around that guy for a long time will be affected by him like this." Seeing her say this, Ino didn't investigate further, as if she felt deep down that this matter didn't seem to be important. "Well, probably. Let's go quickly." "Okay, Ino." While everyone was busy with their own things, they seemed to have really forgotten that there was a certain white-haired creepy man. "Oh, so annoying. Really, you're the one who likes to dawdle and brag, wasting everyone's time." That's because you've been pulling me along and talking endlessly." A group of pretty girls, while chattering about gossip, rushed to the steaming hot spring pool. Just as they were about to wade in to take a bath, they turned their heads and saw several of them subconsciously staring there in a daze, and then screamed. "Ah!" A certain white-haired wretched man was lying on his back on the horizontal surface, staring at the sky with a silly smile. He was soaked in the hot water and turned red and shiny. He felt weak all over. Finally, when he was about to get himself wet, he caught a glimpse of a group of pretty girls standing on the periphery pointing at him. He couldn't help but said happily, "You're finally here." He was almost fainting from the heat, but he didn't forget to smile happily at the girls and said, "It's worth it, that I've been soaking here. Sisters, there's a pervert. Let's go." It's a pity that the girls did not sympathize with the white-haired wretched man. Instead, after seeing his appearance, they all chose to scream and run away from the pool. As soon as he went upstairs and opened the door of the room, Mingshan was suddenly stunned there. Shikamaru, who had just woken up, rubbed his sleepy eyes, frowned in confusion as he watched Mingshan standing at the door without coming in, and asked curiously, "What are you doing standing at the door, Mingshan?" Nothing. I seem to have forgotten the existence of someone, right?" Mingshan scratched his head, as if he was talking to Shikamaru, or as if he was talking to himself. "Hey, is he a very important person?" Arkai, who had also woken up, stretched his waist and asked him with a smile. I don't feel that way. He doesn't seem to be an important person." Mingshan was surprised and thought carefully after hearing this. "Well, then there's nothing to think about, Mingshan." Sitting on the tatami mat and eating soup potato chips, Choji asked him, "Hey, Mingshan, how long do we have to wait outside for dinner?" Choji, I don't think you'll starve to death, even if you don't eat this dinner." Mingshan silently complained about him in his heart, but on the surface he said, "Let's go. It's time for dinner. We can eat now. Let's go downstairs together." "Yeah, great." When Arkai heard the news that Mingshan announced that dinner was ready, he was happier than anyone else, like a child, actively raising his hand to respond. "Hey, what the hell did I bring back to the hotel?" Seeing him like that, Mingshan sighed in frustration. "TSK, who are you mumbling about?" Huang Mao, who had been pretending to be indifferent, was lying on the tatami mat in the corner with a small nap. When he heard what he said, he subconsciously turned his head to question Mingshan. "Oh, I didn't tell you." Mingshan glanced at the yellow-haired guy in the corner, looking down on him. "Don't be so sensitive. Hurry down and eat." HMPH. No. This guy even yelled at him. "Forget it if you don't want to go. Don't jump up and down in the room with an empty stomach." Mingshan threatened him sinisterly, "You have to keep on traveling tomorrow, and you won't have much time to rest. If someone..." Ahaha, Shikamaru, Choji. Before Mingshan finished threatening him, the yellow-haired guy stood up suddenly, patted the invisible dust on his body with both hands, scratched his head casually, glanced out the window and said, "Oh, it's so dark now, let's go eat quickly, otherwise we will miss it, if we are late." After that, he pulled one with each hand. "Hey, why are you pulling us along?" "That's right, it's inconvenient for me to get the potato chips like this." "Well, let's go together. It's so boring if I go alone." Huang Mao coaxed and deceived them, and also winked at Arkai with his eyes. "Arkai, let's go together." "Oh, okay." After being called, this guy followed Huang Mao heartlessly, without considering Mingshan's feelings standing next to him. "Wait for me." "Oh, I really picked up an ungrateful person." He sighed and warned himself that he could no longer be a good person indiscriminately and let them leave the room first. After a long time, Mingshan followed them downstairs to eat. After dinner, everyone looked for topics, found their own small groups, and started chatting. Time passed quickly in this atmosphere. "Hey, is it this time already?" Ino looked up at the clock hanging on the wall and said to Shizune, "Well, it's very late now, Sister Shizune, Lady Tsunade, let's go back and rest." "Yeah, that's fine. We've been busy all day. It's time to go back and rest early. What do you think, Lady Tsunade?" Shizune turned to ask her. "Yeah, okay." Tsunade nodded in agreement, still as quiet as before, not saying much. "Hey, are you guys going back to your room to rest now?" Naruto was holding a Hanafuda card in his hand. He also checked the time and said with a pout, "It's only 9:30, it's still early." Chapter 299 Hot Spring Bath. HMPH, we girls need to take good care of our skin. You don't have to worry about this, so it doesn't matter. Ino complained to Naruto with contempt. I didn't expect that Ino would care so much about getting beauty sleep. Mingshan had just drawn a light note in his hand and was surprised to hear her scolding the yellow-haired girl like this. Of course. Ino twisted her slightly sore neck. "Shizune sister, Tsunade lady, let's go." After saying that, she got up first and left the game room. A moment later, Tsunade also left with Shizune, who was holding Tantan. Hey, they're all gone. Shikamaru put down the cards in his hand and said to them, let's go back to the room and rest. Really? Seeing that Shikamaru was going upstairs to rest, the yellow-haired guy muttered unhappily, they're going to get a beauty sleep. Do you have to follow them to take care of your skin? What nonsense are you talking about? Shikamaru was embarrassed when he heard that. I'm really sleepy. Besides, there's no point in us playing Hanafuda all the time. We have to get up early tomorrow and continue our journey. Yeah, Shikamaru is right. Mingshin echoed him and put down the cards, saying, let's all go back. It's time to go upstairs to our rooms and sleep. Why are you like this? The yellow-haired guy was still unwilling to give up and tried to argue with him. Hey, stop it. Mingshin saw this and simply reached out his hand to stop what he was about to say and said unhappily, you are too energetic and can't sleep. If you want to continue playing, I have no objection, but you can't keep everyone awake, right? TSK, forget it. Go to sleep if you want. It's really boring. The yellow-haired man threw down the cards unhappily and complained to him with his hands on the pillow. Mingshin, you are as boring as an old woman on the street. When they first heard Naruto complain about Mingshin like this, Achi and Choji looked very strange. Okay Naruto, if you have the time, why don't you come and help clean up? Shikamaru said to him speechlessly, which was indirectly helping Mingshin out. I know. The yellow-haired man reluctantly cleaned up the other things on the table under Shikamaru's repeated urging. Mingshin himself didn't care at all. He had habitually ignored the guy's remarks. While helping Shikamaru to clean up the cards on the table, he also instructed Choji and Achi. Choji, you guys hurry up and help. Stop playing. Oh, okay. After they packed up their things, they quickly left the game room and went upstairs to their room. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Jiraiya lying in the corner, kicking off the quilt and sleeping without any image. Hey, Master Jiraiya went to bed so early? Shikamaru was about to reach out to turn on the light, but seeing that he was sleeping so soundly, he didn't want to disturb him and shrank back. TSK, this guy has been soaking in the hot spring for an afternoon, how can he not go to bed early? Mingshin rolled his eyes to the ceiling and complained without hesitation. He still clearly remembered the ugly appearance of several staff members who pulled him out of the pool with great difficulty and embarrassment at 6:30. It was really embarrassing. After listening to the girls' complaints, Tsunade wanted to throw Jiraiya out on the street, but was persuaded by them. I really don't understand. Even if we meet, what can be fun in the hot spring? Choji stopped chewing potato chips and spread out the quilt. Alas, the world of adults is really complicated. I don't understand them. Yeah, it's quite complicated. Mingshin looked at Choji with empathy and thought, it seems that sometimes just liking to eat can be considered a blessing. Well, who cares? Arkai quickly made his own bed, and seeing that Mingshin didn't move at all, he asked him casually, Mingshin, let me spread out the sheets for you. Oh, no, you guys go to sleep first, I'll go out for a while. Mingshin looked up at the night view outside the window, and said to him with something in his heart, hey, you're not sleeping, where are you going? Naruto asked him curiously. Is it your business? Mingshan said to this guy rudely. Hey, you. Hearing Mingshan's words, Naruto wanted to get angry and stood up to say something back at him, but was stopped by Shikamaru. Mingshan took the opportunity to slip away, ignoring the various curses and complaints from the yellow-haired man in the room. He had just walked downstairs when he ran into a staff member passing by the stairs. Hey, guest, it's so late, aren't you going to rest? The other party asked after seeing him. I'm not very sleepy now. I want to go to the hot spring for a while and then go back to rest and sleep. Mingshan answered him politely, it shouldn't take too long. Oh, okay. The staff nodded and then said, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Well, please. After watching the other party leave, he scratched his head and walked straight through the corridor to the locker room. Mingshan changed his clothes and prepared to take a bath before going to the hot spring in the pool. At the same time, he inadvertently thought of the figure of a thin girl in his mind and was in a daze. I wonder how the girl is doing now. He always couldn't help but think about things for her. Although he killed all the people sent by Denzo, he couldn't help but worry that there would be people who were blind and targeted Hotaru and Tonbi. Although he thought so, after taking a bath, Mingshan went straight to the outside of the pool. Just as he was about to go into the water, he accidentally saw a pot of sake and a cup at the edge of the hot spring. He wondered, hey, who didn't clean up after drinking and left them here? He pondered for a moment, thinking that there were many tourists staying in the hotel, and he didn't know who they were. Maybe they forgot to clean up when they left. TSK, it seems that the habit of littering is the same in every world. Mingshan often saw this phenomenon when he went to tourist attractions in his previous life. There were trash cans next to them, but some people just wanted to litter. It was really speechless. Come on, I'll take it out to the staff after I finish my hot spring bath. Mingshan yawned and quickly walked into the pool with his feet touching the water. Wow. There were cracks on the rocks on both sides of the pool. Feeling the hot water surging under his feet, he sat down with his buttocks, and just when he was about to talk comfortably, gulp, at the other side of the steaming hot spring, circles of bubbles suddenly rose on the horizontal surface. Wow. Suddenly, a large white wave quickly rushed out, and someone shook his head, letting the splashing water spread all over the edge of the pool. Chapter 300 The Awkward Two People. Hearing the sound of water, Mingshan paused and couldn't help but mutter in his heart, saying, who is this, playing in the pool in the middle of the night? Just as he raised his eyes, stood up and turned his sight to the other side. He met the eyes of a certain blonde beauty, but, after a very long period of embarrassment, the two of them said, do you mind if I leave first? Mingshan smiled awkwardly but politely and discussed with the other party. Oh, then do you mind? The other party clenched his fists so tightly that they made a creaking sound and smiled at him. I'm going to beat you to death first. Hey, if you do this, I'll have to call for help. Mingshan floated into the water guiltily, and seeing the other party slowly approaching and moved, he immediately prepared to run over and said fiercely, hey, don't go too far. At worst I'll fight you to the death. Tsunade. Haha, Kit, say it again, if you have the guts. Tsunade still had a very beautiful smile on her face, but under the moonlight, the bulging blue veins on her forehead made her look not so friendly. How should I know you were taking a hot spring bath here? Mingshan stiffened his neck and said stubbornly, we are all civilized people, don't hit people at every turn. Humph. Tsunade wanted to rush over and beat him up, but after taking a few steps closer, considering that both of them were still soaking in the hot spring, if one of them was not careful and exposed. After thinking for a while, Tsunade had to suppress her impulse. Seeing that she gave up the idea of fighting with him, Mingshan cried out that he was lucky. It's just a hot spring. It's really dangerous. He was quite depressed and tangled. Why was he so unlucky and he could run into such a thing? Could it be that he had done too many sins in his previous life? Ahem. After a while, in order to ease the awkward atmosphere between him and Tsunade, Mingshan had to bite the bullet and speak. I say, you don't sleep so late at night. Why do you suddenly want to take a hot spring? Why did you come to the hot spring too? Tsunade asked instead of answering, with a rather cold tone. I can't sleep. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Mingshan didn't care. After thinking for a while, he scratched his head and answered Tsunade, well, are Shizune and the others asleep? Almost. Tsunade leaned back to the edge of the pool. When I came out, they had just gone to bed. Oh. Mingshan also leaned against the other end, keeping a distance from Tsunade. Well, by the way, when you were at Fukumaru Hall, why did you suddenly find an excuse to leave early? Why are you asking this? Tsunade glanced at the other person from a distance, not wanting to discuss this topic. Are you still upset about not saving Kimimaro at that time? Mingshan didn't mind her attitude at all, but asked. Hearing this, Tsunade opened her mouth slightly and wanted to say something. It's over, Tsunade. Mingxin looked up at the brightest star in the night sky. Some people will leave eventually, and the only thing we can do afterwards is to choose to let ourselves grow up gradually, slowly try to accept the separation, and learn to say goodbye to the past. Boy, the way you talk, I really hate it sometimes. Tsunade restrained her bad attitude towards him in the past, because you make me feel that I'm still not mature enough. It's okay. Mingxin retracted his gaze to the night sky. Maturity is a little, otherwise how dare I scold you in the hospital that time. TSK, can't you forget what happened that day? Tsunade was reminded of what happened that day when he said that, and suddenly she felt her face getting hot. Brat, I haven't seen how capable you are, but you are quite good at talking about these messed up theories. Mingxin smiled, but then asked her, is your hemophobia really cured because of Naruto? Why are you suddenly asking this? Tsunade was puzzled. Didn't they tell you, as soon as they met, when you just woke up? I know, but I would like to know the full cause and effect of this matter from you. After that, Mingxin turned around and actually reached out to pick up the wine jug. After pouring himself a glass of sake, he took advantage of the moonlight and leaned in to take a closer look and said, hey, I didn't expect the store's wine to be so clear and transparent in color. Huh, you know about wine? Tsunade found his evaluation very interesting. Iruka looked at him. Don't talk as if you have really drunk a lot of good wine. I can't say that I have really drunk a lot of good wine. After all, I'm still a minor. Mingxin tilted his head back to drink it and said with a smack, it just happened that night, when I was in the village, Han dragged me to drink vodka. Vodka? Tsunade was quite surprised when she heard him mention this. That stuff has a very high alcohol content. It's provided to customers in the store. Even if it's not 60, it must be at least around 50 to 40. How can you stand it? Hey, men should always try to train themselves when it comes to drinking. Mingxin said, and poured himself another glass. I'm actually quite grateful to Teacher Han for persuading me to drink that night. After drinking it up, he put the glass back. At that time, if it weren't for drinking, I wouldn't have been able to get closer to Han Dao. TSK, you're the only one who can cause so much trouble by drinking. She complained about him unnecessarily, thinking about the previous question, and didn't let Mingxin wait any longer, and said, you asked me just now if the hemophobia was really cured by Naruto, right? Well, He looked at Tsunade intently. Can you tell me? After that, he waited quietly for what she was going to say next. I'm a very famous medical ninja in Konoha, you know that? Tsunade smoothed the wet hair on her cheeks. Yes, I know. Mingxin nodded. Otherwise, I wouldn't have traveled thousands of miles out of the village to look for you. I used to have a younger brother named Naruto. His ambition was very similar to Naruto's. He also wanted to become a Hokage through his own efforts. Tsunade stirred the water on the lake. At that time, in order to encourage him, I gave him the necklace that my grandfather gave me on Naruto's birthday. She looked at the turbulent moon in the water. However, not long after this, Naruto was killed by an enemy ninja during a mission. Brother, Naruto. Mingxin said this in his mouth. Because of Rope Tree's death, I later proposed to Sarutobi, who had become the third Hokage, to add a medical ninja to each team, to improve the completion rate of the mission and effectively reduce the casualty rate. Tsunade said this with a little helplessness on her face, but because Konoha's resources were very limited at the time and the conditions were not mature in all aspects, the teacher simply refused and rejected my suggestion. P.S. Thanks to book friend 131,203,085,939,924 for the recommendation vote yesterday. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.